I'd like to go ahead and call the Osceola County School Board meeting from Tuesday, November 2nd to order. We will begin the meeting with a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Can't hear us?
Not with that, no, I am.
No, thank you.
No, they need to shut the door.
We can shut the door.
Stop talking in the back.
Okay, let's try again. Please, I need everyone to go ahead and be quiet, please, so everybody in the audience can hear. Our Pledge of Allegiance today will be led by the junior ROTC students from St. Cloud High School under the direction of Colonel Valley, followed by our national anthem, which will be sung by our choral students from St. Cloud High School as well, under the direction of Tammy Combs. Our mission statement will be read by Nate Fancher, principal of St. Cloud High School, and the translation services by Dr. Lastinia Pinozola, Executive Director of Multicultural. If you would, please rise with me for a moment of silence and silence your cell phones.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Now, St. Cloud, Colonel Valley.
Present. Arms.
Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the ramparts of brave and the home of the brave?
Order. Colors. Forward. March.
That was nice.
All right. Mission of the Osceola School District is inspiring all leaders to reach their highest potential as responsible, productive citizens.
Thank you, Mr. Fancher.
Good evening, I am Dr. Lastinia Pinozola, and I'm here to provide translation services. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es la doctora Lastinia Pinozola, y estoy aquí para proveer servicios de traducción.
Thank you very much. Now we will begin with our positive comments. Mr. Bask, are you ready if we start with you today?
Sure. Thanks again. It's good to see a nice crowd showing up tonight, and thanks to everyone for attending. And as always, I want to thank our teachers and our staff for everything they're doing. I know you're doing the best that you can under the circumstances, trying to make up for the learning deficits. And talking with some of the principals and teachers throughout the past week, and well, even before that, it seems like some of our kids and there's deficits not only in learning, but in the social skills too, because many of our students missed a whole year. So those kids that are going from 7th grade are now in high school, and from 4th grade are in middle school, and they didn't have that opportunity to go to that next grade level. But thank you for all that you do. I got a few thank yous. Dr. Reyes met with some of the parents. I want to thank her for taking charge on that and responded back to me. Felissa Lewis is our business partner liaison. Our Kissimmee Middle School is having a fundraiser and they're looking for business partners. So I reached out to them and they're going to connect and try to get some donations to the local businesses. Mr. Thorne, where's he at? Where's he at? Peter Thorne, I don't seem to do. Go vacation, okay. We had a parent that was having some difficulties with her mind and he stepped forward and addressed that and took care of that for her. I appreciate that. Dr. Allen had a school bus incident and he handled that gracefully. I appreciate that. Make a kind of an apology to our warehouse, William and our warehouse. We've got our warehouse crew is an amazing bunch. Sometimes we ask them to put a size 12 shoe and a size 12 foot and an 11.5 shoe because of limitations on our warehouse. A couple weeks ago, I was spending some time in Kissimmee Middle School and there was a surplus material that was outside the building. It was kind of exposed to the elements and it's got to be removed. So called Randy and Dr. Pace and anyways, warehouse guys went and took care of it. The problem was the warehouse guys didn't know that it was there. So Friday I went and bought some pizzas for all of them and took a tour of the warehouse and great bunch of guys and what they do is pretty amazing. And I also want to thank, I found out that our school bus drivers, they receive a bonus for safe driving. It's kind of a win-win. It's to encourage them for safe driving and it helps us, I'm sure, with our insurance. But that bonus was not extended to our maintenance crews. So we have a lot of maintenance guys that are hauling around equipment and lawnmowers, et cetera, and they didn't get that same bonus. So I addressed that and I want to thank Randy for running that through the process, and now we're going to have that bonus applied to our maintenance crews too. So thank you so much for that. Attended our St. Cloud Harmony football game. I went with my St. Cloud booster shirt.
Bulldogs!
That's right. I went to the game with my St. Cloud booster shirt and my Harmony hat, and they put on a great show. 31-30, go Bulldogs, and they put on a great show. I want to thank you for that. And that's really all I have for right now. Thank you.
Mr. Wood?
Yeah, so first of all, happy birthday to our very own Teresa Castillo. Secondly, I went out and then come up and make a presentation here in a minute, but I went out to COA by mistake. Anybody who knows me knows I have the most horrendous sense of direction. So I was on my way to PAFA, ended up at COA, but I actually got to see some amazing people doing amazing work at COA. And then I did make it in time to at least see some really cool stuff going on in the Light On events at PAFA. Amazing kids. I had to, do egg drops and just there was a whole bunch of amazing stuff that was really inspiring these kids. They were happy, even though it was late in the day. They were there. I was there until 6 something, and these kids were all still excited to be learning. So I was just extremely pleased with that. It was just a really wonderful experience. So thank you so much for the invitation and for allowing me to take part in that. I wanted to thank the teachers and parents. I talked to a whole bunch of teachers and parents, and over some of the controversial stuff going on in the school district. And in the end, the most important thing is that teachers and parents continue to work together. And I'm extremely appreciative because everybody that it did speak to was very adamant about maintaining that relationship between teachers and parents. And it's just key to a good educational system, right? And thank you very much. I also had a group of parents praying over me randomly this week. I don't know, you guys apparently thought I needed a lot of prayers, but it happened on multiple occasions, and to those people out there, I just wanted to say thank you. Stopped me in the grocery store, wherever, to do that for me. That was really humbling, and I was kind of overwhelmed by the experience. Usually people are praying because of me, not for me. Also, I would like to thank the people who have submitted logos for the county logo contest. One of the questions I received, and actually our attorney brought it up today, was no, you do not have to pay to submit a logo. Of course not. So the buck's on me. You submit your logos, kids submit your logos, parents submit your logos to me, and I'll, believe me, there's no charge. I'm not an art critic, so it would be a waste of your money. Lastly, I have a tremendous educator who continues to find his, where are the checks tiny open? Who continues to find himself in front of the school board on a constant basis for doing great works. Thank you. And Mr. Inwood, come on up here, please. So we'll go in the order that these are set up here. Discovery? So,
Come on up.
Mr. Inwood here has just been an incredibly generous partner, but he's not only a partner, he's also a teacher. So he teaches our kids, he's involved with our kids on a constant basis. I shouldn't even be involved because really this is just all him, he does it on his own. He says, hey, Arguello, will you help me distribute these checks? And I'm like, yeah, of course, I'll do, but really it's him, he does it on his own, out of his own time, his own efforts, his own love for the students and for the community. And I'm extremely grateful to know you. It's incredibly humbling to see people who do so much for a community. And I just thank you so much. Absolutely, please do. Thank you.
All right. I've been in this community now 28 years. I've been in the school district over 25 years teaching. I didn't come into teaching because I needed a career and I needed money. I came into teaching to make a difference. And Dr. Pace, we've known each other many, many, many years. And I originally wanted to start at the alternative school, which I did, because I wanted to give all the children some sort of hope, give them a future. I'm in construction, I'm also in automotive, so I taught construction. I've been teaching it all these years. A couple of years back, I decided to start a nonprofit. The reason why I started the nonprofit is I wanted to give back to the community here, especially my community here in the Poinciana area. We're District 3? In District 3. And there's such a need. We have so many families that are living in hotels. I have so many kids that come into my classroom and I got to give them paper, supplies. I don't mind doing it because they need it. I want them to succeed. I have a lot of kids that I have a summer job program over the summer where they go to work in the industry and they actually turn it into a career. And these kids go out and work all summer. But you know what they do with the money? They don't put wheels on their cars. They don't put paint jobs on their cars. They don't buy shoes. They give it to mom and dad to pay for food, to pay for bills, to do all that. So, I mean, that's what we're here for. We're here to teach our kids what is right. We're here to teach them the social skills they need, like we just spoke about social skills. And how do you get a job? How do you work at a job? How do you get along with your coworkers? We're not always going to get along with our coworkers. I mean, ask Mr. Schwartz, he'll tell you.
What is he talking about?
But the whole thing is education. There's a lot of different areas in education. It's not always about just going to college. It's also about making a career for yourself. Some students are fantastic with their hands. They can make a lot of money. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I've got students out there that are making a lot more than we're all making in here. Okay, and they love their job every day. They go to it every day and they can't wait to get to work. But you know, that's why I do it, and that's why I did the nonprofit, and that's why tonight we have families that need food for the holidays. I want to make sure we get it to them. So we cut checks for all the schools in our District 3. I spoke to Mr. Arguello because this is his district, and I said, I want to do something. This is what I'd like to do, and we ran with it. So
Thank you so much, sir.
it's my pleasure. This is my wife, by the way. She's a bookkeeper.
Otherwise, there'd be no money.
That's right.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Horizon. Where's Horizon? Anybody from Horizon? Anybody from Horizon?
When it comes to real check.
Once again, Mr. Schwartz, or anybody else, who he gets along with better.
I think I lost the check.
Thank you very much.
And this is my pleasure, my pleasure.
I look like your guy's baby in that picture. Liberty High?
That is the best school.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. You can see how many checks these are, all right? Chestnut. Our Star Trek fan. I'm kidding, he loves Star Wars, so.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Deerwood. Reedy Creek.
Thank you so much. You're very welcome.
Koa. The better Schwartz.
That's right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You're very welcome.
You were my favorite Schwartz until I met her yesterday at
Too
school.
bad, now it's me.
And Poinciana. My egg broke, by the way, yesterday. So
I heard.
I was pretty embarrassed that I couldn't make that happen for that little kid.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Always a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Dr. Pace?
Thank you very much. That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
That's all. Dr. Pace, your light's on. Has that been on since before we got here? I just turned it off. I might have turned it on by mistake. Ms. Castillo?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I'll be brief, but I do have a lot of positive comments. I do want to thank Adriana from the Innovation Department. Adriana came, is Mr. Pafalski here, by the way? No? Okay. Adriana works in our innovation department, and we are having a tremendous choice fair on November 18th. And I wanted our community to know more about it, so I asked her to come with me on Saturday to talk to our community, and she was so graceful and she is so intelligent, and we had such a fun time. So I just wanted to thank her so much for attending the event with me and also talking to our community about our upcoming Choice Fair, November 18th. If you're interested, please attend. I also want to thank Melissa Jimenez, the program director for 21st Century. It's an after-school program at Renaissance in Poinciana. She invited me to attend this amazing Lights Out event, and I just had a lot of fun watching the kids perform and showing their parents what they do in the after-school school programs, so that was really fun to watch. Also, the CKA PTA as well as the Chick-fil-A in Celebration hosted their fall festival. It was fantastic. I loved attending. And I do want to do a little tiny plug for the fall festival for Flora Ridge. So if you're in the area on November 10th from 4 to 7, they're going to have their fall festival. It is a fundraiser, so if you want to put some money into our community, they're going to have games, they're going to have treats. So if you can attend, please do. Thank you.
Mr. Melendez.
Thank you. My next presentation is for the students that got accepted to the Air Force Academy nomination board itself. Because that is a process that, for folks who may not be familiar with it, if you want to get accepted to an Ivy League school like Harvard, you just apply and you gotta have good grades and whatever admission requirement they have. But to get into the service academy, it is actually more difficult to get accepted to a service academy than it is to Harvard. Why? Because you have to have a congressional appointment. So if you don't have a congressional appointment or the president, I'm sorry, excuse me, there's some technical folks out there, especially you guys are really smart. The vice president or the president of the United States can also nominate these students. So if it's not the president of the United States or the vice president, then it's going to require a congressional nomination on top of everything else that they have done. And I got the ability, as long as my colleague, Mr. Arguello, on the Army in West Point, I was in the Air Force Academy, and so I was there doing the interviews of the students. And I tell you right now, that was one of the most difficult competitions to deal with, because every single one of these students that I'm about to call out were like A and B students, were taking difficult classes, they have to have athletics, that have to have community service. The competition was so tough this year that a couple of the judges on the Air Force Academy nominating board, we were at Gateway High School and there was a skeleton, I guess it was like an arts room or an anatomy room or something. We put the skeleton right next to the thing to see who would like fold under pressure. And like some of these kids, they just act like it wasn't even there, it didn't even bother them. So without further ado, I wanted to kind of not call all of them at once, but you know what, they're so great on their own. So I'll just go ahead and ask each one of them. And if the principal or somebody's here with them, just please acknowledge them. Then at the very end, I do got a special presentation, because one of them was actually, just to let you know what the process is, the congressman chooses like the top 2 or 3 to actually get the appointments. But we interview all the students, because the congressman doesn't have time to do interviews on each one of them. He appoints boards like us to kind of filter it down. And one of the students from Osceola County, because remember, the District 9, the congressional district, is Polk County, Osceola, and Orange. So we're competing with 3 different counties. One of them was ranked number 1, so may get the actual appointment. But we'll save that for the end. So without further ado, we got Chalices Cardona from St. Cloud High. Come on, Mr. Fancher. If you want to say something about your awesome student here, Mr. Fancher, we're more than happy to do it. We do got her a certificate here of appreciation, including a $50 gift card to Amazon.
Oh.
Well, let's get a picture, at least she's.
Wait, get the gift card.
I do that?
Oh, mom.
No,
Oh, yeah.
no.
Good mom.
What are we looking at? Let's wait first.
No, get the mom. Wait, good mom here.
Come on up, it's all
I'm
right.
sorry. No, come on. It was amazing.
Yeah, forget all of that.
Give me your phone.
How dare you know that?
That was my fault, Dad.
Oh my God.
All right. On 3, say go Bulldogs. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Go Bulldogs! Good luck.
Oh, got it.
And at the end, I
What is it?
decided to
Tell
throw it
everybody.
all you guys together right now.
Oh, now we know.
Jeez.
Bulldogs.
1, 2. Julius.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Oh, yeah.
Great job, Dad.
Hey, Julie, so here's your point. At the end, we'll take a group photo, so if
Okay,
you want.
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next one is, Neil City Academy had 2 students. One of them is Tyler Benoit. Oh, I'm sorry, Benoit, or I don't know how to pronounce it. Benoit, I'm sorry. Come on up, Tyler. Do you have anybody from Neil City here? Okay. And the other one is Sean Lang. See, now I know what the graduation ceremonies have. That's a difficult thing to have to pronounce everybody's name. So thank you. Yes, sir. If you guys have family or anybody else that wants to come out.
So now the interesting thing about Neo City, which was difficult, why am I holding it? Thank you. Is that there's not an athletic program, but it's just academics, and that's something that we could talk about later, is to see if you guys have dual enrollment agreements, the ability to do local participation in other sports, because that was the only reason why you guys couldn't get to the top, because the athletics. But I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for putting forth the effort and for wanting to still serve the military. So thank you so much.
Julius.
Anything you want to say on you guys here?
I mean, these guys are tremendous. Obviously, this is our first graduating class. So this is our first senior class. So we're super excited. These are two incredible young men that will serve the country very well. So I'm excited to see their journey. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yep.
And Toho has two people as well, Rahul Parekh and Peter Rodriguez. Oh, I remember Peter. I can never look at him now. Hey, congratulations, sir. Thank you. Congratulations. There you go, sir. Congratulations. Thank you, sir. Good job. We'll take the photo for a second. Before the principal, anyone want to say anything? But Peter ranked number 2. So that's out of everybody, so he's still up there. That's a possibility because a congressman doesn't just have to take our number 1 pick. They can go down to number 2 if they need to. So Peter has a really good shot of getting appointed to the academy. You want to say anything?
These two young men were two of the first people I met on campus this summer as I transitioned in. They came up and met me, and we had good conversations. And I could tell immediately they were definitely student leaders on our campus. So super proud of them.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. In addition to the congressional nominations, the senior naval science instructor also gets to nominate his instructors, or his students, the ones that surface to the top. We've been in operation for 3 years. This is our 4th year, and Raul is my first nomination. So he received my nomination. Hopefully, he's going to get that appointment. We're real proud of him. So great job, Raul.
It's not too late. You guys can still go Army.
You got to appoint.
Or Navy.
All right. So we're done with this last one. We'll have all the students come back and take a group photo since that's to have that little cohort. Without further ado, my number 1 ranked person that the congressman selected from Celebration High School in District 1, we got Mr. John Cunningham. Come on up. Anybody from Celebration here or the father? Yes. I tell you what, I already said it before, man, I've done a lot of interviews, and as a school board member, you meet a lot of brilliant kids, but it was unanimous because the judges, we get together and we rank you at the end, and we have to rank it amongst ourselves. Who's number 1, who's number 10, and we had to fight over a couple of them. But the one we did not have to fight over was you, Mr. Cunningham. Your resume was impeccable. I don't know how the heck you do it. I mean, your interview skills were great. Your community service. You're on the swim team. He was on the swim team competitions and even made it here on time. So you're just an amazing person. And you let me know that the next generation is going to be just as awesome. You're in great hands. And I can't thank you enough, sir.
Thank you so much.
You want to say anything? Well, do you want to say anything personally, Mr. Cunningham? You're not going to be afraid to. He gets to say something too.
First off, thank you. Thank you everyone who came. It's amazing. Thank you to everyone who's part of our district. It's been amazing being able to have my 4 years at Celebration High School and being able to do all the amazing things I do. Thank you so much for the nomination. Thank you so much for the process. It was an amazing process. Very grueling and difficult, but I'm happy it turned out well in the end. And I'm excited to be able to go forth and serve my country.
Awesome. Can I have all the students come back again? And all the students can come up and do it. Now, here's the one thing that I have to say about all the students coming up here now. even though they may not get a nomination, as part of the interview, we asked every student, if you don't get accepted to the academy, will you still be willing to join the military? Will you still be willing to go to ROTC? Every single one of them said yes. And I tell you what, that's not easy to do, because as a civilian, all these people can be engineers, chemical folks, they could be making $100,000 a year easy, going to Yale, living the easy life, and they can have it made. Each one of them probably has full ride scholarships, but they still chose to serve this country uniform, because they know that the freedom isn't free, it is fought for by generations. I did it myself, and so that's something that I just really have the spirit of congratulations, because it's not just about getting good grades, it's about loving the country that's here, and we have to fight for that freedom. So again, gentlemen, I salute each one of you. Thank you.
Good job, guys, good job.
Thank you.
Good job, Ms. Lawson. You say that's it?
I think so.
Julius, do you have more, is that?
No, that's it, that's it.
Okay, Dr. Pace?
Just very briefly, this year, the United Way is honoring all educators in Central Florida as the change makers for 2021, based on the amazing work that our educators have done from the beginning and continue to do each and every day as we continue to deal with the pandemic. So this is for all of our teachers and support staff and principals and leaders. All of Central Florida's educators are honored as the change makers by United Way. That's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Pace. And that brings us to our presentations. As you've already seen tonight, this district has countless amazing students. So particularly in the arts. So Ms. Haas, Ms. Burns, you're gonna. I believe we have a performance from our St. Cloud High School.
Westerbrook, Fahrenheit, putting towers where jailers stand guard, all covered with thousands of flies. 8 of us crammed into Barrack 67, betrayed. We never know by whom. Our last month together. Our last month. Anne and Peter walking hand in hand between the barracks and barbed wire. Edith worrying about the children, washing underclothing in murky water. Numb. Margot silent, staring at nothing. Our last days on Dutch soil. Late August, Paris free, Brussels, Antwerp, but for us, it is too late. Tuesday, September 3rd, 1944. 1,000 of us herded into cattle cars, the last transport to leave Westerbrook to the extermination camps. The train, 3 days, 3 nights. In the middle of the third night, Auschwitz. Separation, men from women, Edith, Margot, Anne, my family. Never again. Selection, half our transport killed in gas chambers. One day, Peter and I, super group of men, march away. His father among them, gassed. Peter on the death march to Malfatsen, dead 3 days before the British arrived. His mother, Auschwitz, Bergen-Belsen, Buchenwald, Fahrengesent, date of death unknown. Mr. Dussel dies in Newton-Gown. January 27th, 1945. I'm free from Auschwitz. I know nothing of Edith and the children. And then I learned Edith died in Birkenau of grief, hunger, exhaustion. The winter of 45, typhus breaks out in Bergen-Belsen, killing thousands of prisoners, among them Margot. Anne's friend, Annalie, sees Anne through the barbed wire, naked, her head shaved, covered with lice. I don't have anyone anymore, she weeps. A few days later, Anne dies. My daughter's body's dumped in mass graves, just before the camp is liberated.
I'm still shaking. Yes, we're here.
You're here, safe. The invasion has begun.
Charlotte and I have never been apart. It all happened so quickly. I couldn't tell where I was going. I didn't know myself.
It looms before me in total horror.
You called it our attic before. Do you really think it's ours?
I saved you, didn't I?
All that remains.
Great job. Thank you all very, very much. Our next is in line approval of the proclamation designating November 8th through 12th as Holocaust Education Week in Osceola County. Presenters will be Adrian Lugo, Rachel Strang, Chris Rogers, and Chris Burns.
Thank you very much. We thought it fitting that St. Cloud perform part of their Anne Frank show for you tonight. Holocaust Education Week in Florida proclamation. Whereas the Holocaust was a state-sponsored systematic persecution and annihilation of European Jews by Nazi Germany and its collaborators between 1933 and 1945, in which 6 million Jews were murdered. And
Whereas we also commemorate other victims of the Nazi regime, which suffered grievous oppression and death under Nazi tyranny, and
whereas the history of the Holocaust offers an opportunity to reflect on the moral responsibilities of individuals, societies, and governments, and
whereas we, the people of the state of Florida, should always remember the terrible events of the Holocaust and remain vigilant against hatred, persecution, and tyranny, and actively rededicate ourselves to the principles of individual freedom and a just society. And
whereas Holocaust Education Week is part of Florida's House Bill 1213, 2020, educational instruction in historical events provides Floridians with a valuable opportunity to remember the victims of the Holocaust, as well as to reflect on the need to respect all peoples, and
whereas Holocaust Education Week in Florida is an opportunity to honor the memory of the victims and survivors of the Holocaust, as well as the rescuers and liberators, and further proclaim that we, as citizens of the state of Florida, should work to promote human dignity and confront hate whenever and wherever it occurs.
now, therefore, we, the Osceola County School Board, do hereby proclaim November 8th through the 12th, 2021 as Holocaust Education Week.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Castillo with a second by Mr. Bass to approve the proclamation. Any comments, board? Hearing none, all those in favor of the proclamation signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries 5-0. Great job. Great presentation all the way through. You covered this. There's nothing else.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure there was nothing missing. Next, Ken Brown, we're going to have a presentation on the presentation of single-member districts. Welcome back.
Thanks. Good evening. How are y'all? So yesterday at the Board of County Commissioners meeting, the redistricting committee brought forth 2 maps that they selected to send to the commission for their consideration. And I believe they're going to go up on the screen, at least one at a time. So they selected map A and map B. I don't know if y'all have had a chance to take a look at them. The biggest probably difference between them is District 2. District 2 kind of goes north of East Lake Toho and map B. And on map A, it's relatively stays the same, it grows more into Kissimmee than it does. It goes more west instead of east. And then there's slight changes in them, but that's probably the biggest noticeable change in the map. So the board set a public hearing for December 6th to adopt one or the other or some variation of. They might make slight changes in them. I know in the past, there's been a couple of changes made. Sometimes it's just, as we go through the boundaries, seeing things that might be easier. You know, if there's maybe like a cadastral boundary that was used in the Census Bureau, for instance, maybe a city boundary, where we might want to use a street or a water boundary or something along those lines, something physical, then we might make some slight changes that way too. But I don't know if y'all have any questions about the committee or the process that they did. Both of these are legally defensible. The population balances pretty well in both of them, so there shouldn't be any issues with that.
Ms. Melendez, you have a question or
Yeah.
comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, because it seems like mine takes the biggest change, and understandably so, because of the equalization. So, I prefer, map B has a little bit more continuity purpose. The only issue is that when it wraps around Narcoossee, about how far down or the detail will be, because the county commission doesn't really take into consideration like the number of schools. So I don't know if I may have to cut off short before Narcoossee Community School or Narcoossee Elementary, so I may have to go up a little bit, just as a consideration.
Oh.
So, because when it wraps around, I can't tell on the map if Narcoossee Community and Elementary is in mine, because then most of the parents will be outside of that. So if the county can consider, map B, but just kind of cutting out Narcoossee Community School to be in District 5 versus my District 2.
Okay,
That'd be kind of like my only scenario. And then if I have to go to the left a little bit, well, there's some population deviation anyway, so I wonder if that, nobody lives in the school, you know what I mean? So maybe if that just doesn't even change it much. But just, in an effort to try to have both maps kind of align with one another, that would be like my suggestion, is to see if the county would take that into consideration, going above the county, the Narcoossee Community School.
Okay, yeah, I can take a look at that and see what it does to the population balances in there.
Mr. Gray?
Yeah, Mr. Brown, last time I asked who was on the committee, right? Do you know the members of this committee now?
I can tell you some of them, I couldn't tell you all of them. I can tell you Sheriff Hansel was the chair of the committee. But I can send you that list of
I would appreciate
who all
that.
was on it.
Thank you.
Or if we can direct our own staff, can Rhonda draw up the map with Narcoossee? Because I don't want to put that pressure on the county, but if we could kind of, because we have the legal authority, right, to create our own map. We don't have to be lockstep with the county. But as a matter of good faith, if at least the staff can draw up our own and show what that would look like.
I currently do not have the census data available, so any changes, I would recommend we make them if we can, to make sure we're using the exact same data. And we can make, if it's able, we can make the adjustments and let us know if it meets all the other criteria.
Okay, well, would you be willing to do that? I mean, you're not our district employee, so I can't tell you, draw the map that way, so.
I'm more than happy to.
Ms. Blake, you can't just hand draw?
Dr. Davis, did you have a comment? I think I keep turning your light on when I touch myself. If not, I think, you don't seem to have any other comments. If you can follow up with that one, and a question for Mr. Arguello, it'd be great.
Yeah, and
Thank you
feel
very
free to contact me. I don't know if y'all have my contact information, but I can send it over just in community development. If you want to give me a call and ask questions or ask me to take a look at something, I'm more than happy to take a look at it.
If you can get some to Rhonda, she can get it to the five of us easily, if you don't mind, Rhonda. I figure you have her contact.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, thanks.
Dr. Pace, you have some appointments and transfers?
I do, sir. Mr. Chair, members of the board, if I could invite Dr. Ashley Langley to the podium. Board members, as Dr. Langley is coming forward, I will share that she has been a teacher at Hickory Tree Elementary School, the math science coach at Reedy Creek Elementary School, and currently serves as a district math resource teacher in our elementary curriculum department. She received her bachelor's degree in advertising and public relations from the University of Central Florida, her master's degree in social science education from the University of Central Florida, and her doctorate in educational leadership from the University of Central Florida. And Mrs. Adams is super excited about Dr. Langley joining her team with your consideration, board.
Oh, so moved, sorry. Apologies.
Have a motion by Mr. Bass with a second by Mr. Arguello to approve Dr. Langley as assistant principal at Reedy Creek. Board, any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries 4-0. Just let the record indicate that Board Member Castillo stepped out just a second. So if you'd like to say something, congratulations.
Thank you so much, board members, Dr. Pace and Dr. Reyes. I'm truly grateful for this opportunity to lead and serve the students in Osceola County. My family is here tonight, so my husband and my kids. Thank you so much. They're just amazing and always super supportive of everything that I'm doing. Throughout the 16 years that I've been in the district, I've had the opportunity to work with some amazing educators and administrators, and they have all helped to shape my career in some way, so I'm thankful for all of them as well. And for Mrs. Adams, of course, the principal at Reedy Creek, I'm really looking forward to working with her and the Reedy Creek family again, so thank you so much.
Thank you. Good luck to you.
And now if I could invite Mr. Sharma to the podium, please. Mr. Chair and members of the board, I'm honored tonight to recommend for your consideration for our Director of Design and Construction, Mr. Dave Sharma. He has been an engineer, a brand manager and engineer, a store manager, a project manager, and currently serves as a facilities manager with the Orange County Public School District. He received his bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Guyana and his master's degree in business administration with a specialization in project management from Capella University. And I believe Mr. Sharma will be a great addition to Mr. Clinch's team over in our facilities department.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Arguello with a second by Mr. Melendez to approve Mr. Sharma as the Director of Design and Construction. Board, any further questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of Mr. Sharma signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries 5-0. Congratulations and well done.
Mr. Chairman, other members of the board, Dr. Pace, Mr. Clinch, and other leadership members. It's a privilege to be selected for this position and to be here this evening with you. A little bit about me that is not on board resolution. I'm passionate about my family. I've been married to my wife Sandra for 12 years. We have an 8-year-old daughter who is a first-degree black belt in karate and is in a class right now. That's why she's not here, because that took a little bit more precedence than this. I'm excited about the construction program and the direction that the district is heading in, and the growth in Osceola County is evident everywhere. I look forward to working with our team to execute the projects and support your vision of strengthening our thriving community. Thanks again, and I look forward to get started.
Thank you. Congratulations. Good luck. At this time, we will recess our regular meeting and we will call the board workshop on rulemaking to order. On the agenda, Mr. Boyd.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for the opportunity tonight to share with you these rules that are proposed for changes. There are 3 new rules and the remainder are revisions to existing rules. The first rule is 3.59, moment of silence. Establishes a new policy to reflect recent legislative changes to section 1003.45 Florida statutes, and it requires that school principals provide students a moment of silence at the beginning of each school day. Coincidentally, all of these revisions that are brought to you tonight are, with the exception of one, proposed by our consultants, the Northeast Florida Educational Consortium. And we're not asking for any action tonight. We'll bring these back to you on December 14th for a public hearing and then final action at that time. When I finish the rest of the summary, I'll be happy to take questions if you have them. The next rule is 7.22, electronic fund transfers. It establishes a new policy to reflect school district precedent and statewide best practices that govern electronic fund transfers. Rule 8.16, emergency drills and evacuations, is a little bit more specific than what is mentioned in Rule 3.40, paragraph 6 that was approved at the last school board rulemaking cycle. This new rule would establish new policy to reflect the recent legislative changes to section 1006.07 Florida statutes in particular that govern emergency drills and evacuations. The next set of rules are all existing rules with revisions proposed to the existing rules to reflect current changes in statute. 2.261, Family and School Partnership for Student Achievement, revises paragraphs 3 and 6 and adds paragraphs 4 and 5 to implement specific requirements within the new statute section 1014 Florida statutes referred to as the Parents' Bill of Rights. 2.27, Special Committees of the School Board, and Rule 2.30, School Advisory Councils. Both refer to changes in the same changes that occurred in the statute, section 1001.43 Florida statutes. Rule 2.27, Special Committees of the School Board, revises paragraph 1 to implement these recent changes that permit members of special committees to attend meetings through the use of telecommunications networks such as telephonic or video conferencing. Rule 2.30, School Advisory Councils, does the same in revising its paragraph 5B. Rule 2.48, Electronic Records and Electronic Signatures, revises paragraph 2, adds paragraph 3 to establish required criteria for electronic records and electronic signatures and to provide consistency with new policy 7.22, electronic fund transfers, if that policy is approved on December 14th. Rule 5.343, use of timeout, seclusion, and physical restraint for students with disabilities. This revises paragraphs 3, 4, 6, 7, and 8 to reflect recent changes in section 1003.573 Florida statutes that prohibit school personnel from using seclusion for students with disabilities. Rule 5.55, notification of involuntary examination, adds paragraphs 3 and 7 and revises paragraphs 4 through 6 to implement recent legislative changes in sections 381.0056, 1003.212 Florida statutes that clarify requirements for parental notification prior to involuntary examinations, such as those required by Florida's Baker Act, and to include exceptions related to child safety. Rule 5.70, student records, adds paragraphs 5 and 6 to implement specific requirements within the new statute, section 1014 Florida statutes, Parents' Bill of Rights. Rule 6.29, report of misconduct, adds paragraphs 1C and revises paragraphs 2, 4, and 5 to implement recent legislative changes to sections 1001.42 and 1012.27 Florida statutes that clarify requirements for professional ethics, reports of misconduct, and employment references for all employees, including the educational support staff employees. Rule 6.531, Deferred Retirement Option Program, acronym DROP, adds paragraphs 2 and 3 to implement recent legislative changes to section 121.091 Florida statutes and revises paragraph 4B to reflect school district precedent and statewide best practices related to the DROP program. Rule 6.90, Personnel Records, adds paragraph 5 to implement recent legislative changes to sections 1001.42 and 1012.27 Florida statutes that clarify requirements related to affidavits of separation and revises paragraphs 6F and 6G for clarity. Rule 8.10, safety, adds paragraph 4B to implement recent legislative changes to sections 1001.42 and 1012.27 Florida statutes that require annual reporting of involuntary examinations to the Florida Department of Education. And that concludes the summary and the reading into the record of the proposed changes. At this time, if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Ms. Castillo?
Mr. Chair. Hi, John.
Hi.
Thank you so much. I have a question about 2.27. It says if implemented, this would be it would be effective based on statute on 12/7? Or would that, so let me clear.
Sure.
2.27, a rule that allows special committee members to attend meetings through telecommunications, such as video conferencing. Is that currently effective?
It is not, well, the law that's changed was effective July 1st, but this
Okay.
policy would not be implemented until you take action, yea or nay, on December 7th. Oh, excuse me, actually, that would be corrected. All those dates that say December 7th should say December 14th, because we postponed the meeting.
Okay. And I would assume the same for 2.30.
Yes, ma'am, all
Okay,
of them.
so, if there is a SAC that is currently using telecommunications, they'd still be covered under this, because technically, we just have to, but under statute, they're able to do this already, right? They don't necessarily need us to approve this, is that correct?
That's correct. We're just revising our rule to reflect what's in statute, to support them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Board, anybody else want any questions? Hearing none, Mr. Boyd, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
We
Thank you,
will
board.
see you again on this topic.
Yes, sir.
With that, we will adjourn the workshop on rulemaking and we will reconvene the regular board meeting. Brings us to agenda modifications. And I've got a couple here. I need to remove item 8.03, 8.04, and 8.05 from the consent to regular agenda. We have somebody wanting to comment on those. We'll fill those down. Board, any other?
Could you say those again, please?
8.03, 4, and 5.
11.06.
I'm sorry?
11.06.
What do we do? Leave it at
Holding a
consent?
permit, consent.
Okay, board, any other changes?
Yeah, for new agenda?
New business?
Or just, yeah, for new business. I wanna discuss the parent pickup drop-off line at, St. Cloud Middle School and Michigan Avenue Elementary.
Michigan Avenue, I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're both two schools using the same drop-off, so that's my point. I want the drop-off, pick-off for both of the schools.
And I'd like to add one thing I'd like to discuss at that time too. Currently, the Florida School Board Association, which does a great job of representing us, is a member of the National Association of School Boards. And I guess I have a problem with some of the things that the National Association has done. I believe the State School Board Association is going to have a board vote. And since we have a member, I'd like to have a discussion, see if we can give some guidance.
Absolutely, sir.
What we all think about that.
I'd like to add some new business too. Sorry, I didn't know we were there.
Okay, no? Go
Uh,
ahead.
transportation issues?
Different than than the drop-off issue?
Yes.
Okay.
An ESE question. A transparency and communication question. And an investigations question.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Board, anybody else?
Mr. Decker, could you just mention the two issues?
Yes, we have, Dr. Pace, can you mention those, because you know where they belong. quicker.
We do have two items that we will be adding to the agenda, as I've already informed the board. Item 14.03 is just an updated ARP budget. We only received the grant application late Wednesday afternoon from the state, and it is due back on November the 12th. So we wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to provide you with an update of where we are on that before we submit it. And then item 15.01, that would be the ratification of the contract with OCA for our instructional employees. There was a positive vote at 89%.
So that's already on the agenda, 15.01, so it's just an addition, it's additional information.
Well, we've added these things as blue sheets to the agenda.
Okay.
I think Giselle maybe have reordered the 15s. So 15.01 is the contract, 15.02 would be a salary increase for non-bargaining, 15.03 would be for administrative staff.
So it's I apologize. 15.01 is what we're adding as a blue sheet.
Correct.
So 01 becomes 2, 2 becomes 3.
Correct. We just renumbered those.
I'm sorry, to be slow.
I was confused too, it says 1501, it says
I didn't
1501.
need to make it confusing, but I know that in the past, the board has indicated that they always want to make sure that before we approve a salary increase for our administrators or our non-bargaining staff, that we've settled our contracts with the union. So that's what that represents, taking that first.
All right, board, anything else? Do y'all have those changes? Do I need to state them for the record?
Dr. Pace, 15.01, I thought was already appended to the agenda. Is there any change, any material changes?
15.1.
We just renumbered.
Oh, it was just
15.02.
renumbering. So this is the same thing that I already read. No, okay.
15.01 that's in here becomes 15.02. 15.02 becomes 3, that becomes 1.
Okay, no material changes to the information is what I'm concerned. I want to make sure I've read my, okay, that's all.
No
Thank you
material
so
changes.
Tanya, do you have the changes, or do you need me to put them in the record?
I believe that I have them. Yes, I'm good, thank you.
Board, will accept a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Arguelles, second by Ms. Castillo, to approve the changes to the agenda as read into the record. Board, any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of that signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carries 5-0. That brings us to the information items. That's all in our packet. Anybody have any questions on those? If not, we will go to items 8.03. And Chris Fontenot requested to speak on these three items, 8.03, 05, and 04 and 05. Chris? That's okay. Give us your name and address in 3 minutes. Are you going to address them all three?
Yeah.
Okay, in bulk.
Good evening, my name is Chris Fontenot, and I live on Gary Street in St. Cloud. I requested for the record that the board tables agenda items 8, 3, 4, and 5 that pertain to contracts with the NSIP. I reviewed the progress report that is attached with the contracts, and I see nothing that shows how this will benefit students. There are some percentages showing average time spent before and after the SAM implementation, but no data to show how those percentages were calculated. According to the progress report, the two schools that listed that have already had the SAMS process in place are St. Cloud High School and Westside K through 8. From the little research I did online, it appears that St. Cloud High School has a reading and math proficiency of 49%, ranking in the bottom 50%. And Westside K through 8 has a reading and math proficiency of 41 and 43%, also ranking in the bottom 50%. So if the goals of these contracts are to improve school performance through unique time management systems, it would appear as though the NSIP program is failing or more information is needed. I'm really disappointed because it just kind of seems like the board isn't really putting students in their education first. Summer training topics like decentering whiteness, inappropriate pornographic books in libraries that aren't pulled, and political agendas are taking priority over student learning. racist organizations like NTC being supported, which is back on the agenda this evening, and how NSIP, which looks to be a money pit without proven results. Last, I started reading a research report that's on their website, sansconnect.com, and was a little bit concerned when I saw some of the organizations that contributed to the report. I would suggest doing a little bit more research into the missions and ideologies of the Wallace Foundation, who funded the initial SANS process, Vanderbilt, Peabody College, North Carolina State University, and the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Lastly, I noticed that the Urban Institute was also a contributor, just as they are with NTC. One of the sections of the report discusses leadership behaviors from an equity perspective. Says we find principals have important impacts on key populations, including low-income students and teachers of color. Indirect channels by working with teachers to implement culturally responsive teaching practices by hiring greater numbers of teachers of color who are influential for students of color. Principals of color may be high leverage actors in this regard, as they appear essentially likely to have positive impacts on both students and teachers of color. So does this mean that the principals and teachers will be given priority based on their skin color? I just think that this needs to be tabled until there's more information that's done. Thank you.
Thank you.
A motion to table this item until further information is found out.
Dr. Pace, do you have anything on the SAMS program?
Ms. A, we have a motion, an outstanding motion without a second. Motion dies for lack of a second. Dr. Pace. Mr. Melendez, you're next.
The SAMS program is an analysis of how our administrators are using their time during the day. It trains them along with an assistant to monitor their calendar so that they can focus more on being in the classroom, supporting and guiding and providing feedback to teachers on effective learning. So it is designed to boost student achievement by improving teacher practice by better use of administrator instructional time, which, as you know, particularly in light of the pandemic, with all of the COVID distractions, contact tracing, and all those types of things, we believe that this is a priority.
So it's basically like a time management kind of system. So it's not like content specific or anything like that.
Absolutely nothing to do with critical race theory.
Motion approved. Each item individually?
Do we do these as a group, Tanya, or do we need to do them as individual?
You can do them as a group.
Okay, motion approved items 803, 804, and 805.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Melendez with a second by Ms. Castillo to approve items 8.03, 4, and 5. Mr. Arguello, you have I don't have a question.
So there's a couple of issues here. Number one, we just had someone come and tell us that the results of these programs have not been very good. So why would we continue if these programs are not successful at the schools that they're at? Number one, just common sense thing. The other thing is, related to these types of contracts, I think that we're gonna get parents who continue to be concerned regarding the source of these programs. We can't, we have to acknowledge that these issues are existing. We've had a presentation by someone who, somebody sent me a whole bunch of information about them, and then I started reading, just now I just did a Google search, and I mean, it's extremely disturbing that we would have somebody come and present when they have these types of views. It would never last. And so here's what I would like to pose to the school board. Number one, if things were reversed, right? If instead of decentering whiteness, we were talking about any of the other communities, any community of color, right? Number one, it would be way, way, way out of bounds. It would be absolutely indefensible, number one. Number two, I think it's important to keep in mind, number one, in the United States, right, the demographics are shifting so that soon enough, right, that Hispanics will be the majority. In the next 20 to 30 years, Hispanics will be the majority in our country. Is this how we want to teach our kids to look at a minority? Now, then Caucasian people will be the minority, and this is the expectation, this is what we're teaching our kids, to view these minorities now, right, what will become the minority, as something different. You guys are setting these kids up, society in general, up for failure by not addressing these issues and being educational minded as opposed to ideology minded. And we can't say that. To me, I would like an explanation as why, what is her name here? Jasmine Fripp. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, some of the things that she says. So she may not be part of this program, but she's certainly part of our overall curriculum strategy, which is questionable at the very least. So, I mean, I'd like an explanation. Number one, is what we're doing smart? Number two, Dr. Pace, will you give me your personal guarantee that there is absolutely nothing CRT or CRT related in any of this that will be put through this program? And three, strategically, can't we just make the move to remove all of these controversial issues away from our curriculum?
Mr. Kramerbach, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I am recommending to the board that in every contract going forward that will impact the classroom, I'm not talking materials or buildings or that, but the instruction. I am recommending that going forward in every contract, while we say they will comply with Florida law, in any contract in which people are going to impact the classroom, the students, or the teachers, that we include specific language requiring them to agree that they will in no way teach critical race theory. Now, when you read the language of what the state board prohibited, the mere talking about equity or race doesn't violate that law. It's skewing it, saying that the whole system's systemic. Now, as we get reports, which we recently got from a teacher, Dr. Pace called me, spoke to me, she had it immediately investigated. It's all we can do. I am putting together, and this is difficult, a memo that I'm going to recommend to Dr. Pace that we give to all our educators so they understand the importance of this issue and what to avoid. For example, if you're teaching an art class, there's really no logical reason to get into a big talk about race. I mean, so
I think that's a great idea, Mr.
Kramer. Common sense things, and I think making sure employees understand this issue, which has got to be written very carefully, is the best thing we can do to help everybody right now.
I think that's a great idea. I'm going to close my comments with the following. First and foremost, if you or majority of the students within your program have a problem with BLM, or you are subconsciously and in some cases outright racist, the fact that you program Negro spirituals, African music, gospel songs, and other black literature a majority of the time as the grand finale, insert eye roll here, in your concert infuriates me. How dare you take our music and use it for the sake of glitz and glamour and to claim you teach a variety of music within your classroom when you don't even respect the history of it or its people. Then some of you all don't even take the time to teach yourselves or seek assistance in learning the correct styling, tone, history of these songs. Then proceed to teach it incorrectly to your kids. And do not sit here and tell me it's impossible. I graduated from Winthrop, et cetera, here. The more you go on in this letter that this person writes, the worse it gets. That's who we had come in here and deliver a speech to our teachers. So we can say that it doesn't exist, but then we have that person come in here and deliver training to our teachers. What do you think she's training?
That training occurred in June, the first week of June, right after pre-planning.
Yeah.
The critical race theory administrative rule was passed in July.
Okay, so prior to that administrative ruling, we had critical race theory in Osceola County, is what you're saying?
This is not critical race theory. The purpose of the content of that training, as I understand it, I did not attend, but we did have our administrators present, was about helping teachers understand cultural context for music.
Right. Well, let me say this. When I heard with my own ears a principal say that the reason that her schools are not as good as other schools in the district is because of three things. Number one, her students were black and brown. Number two, they came from a single family. And number three, they were poor. And the first thing that came to my mind is, are you talking about me? Because that was me when I was in school. So I think that that's a horrendous job. If you're not vetting these programs, if we're not vetting this, then shame on you, because we can't say that these programs, if they're questionable, then we should be reviewing them and vetting them, okay? Because one thing that I resent, somebody else used the word resent earlier today, actually that was unrelated, I resent for any educator to tell me that because I'm one thing or another that I'm not gonna learn, or because I had this environment I'm not gonna learn, or because of these circumstances in my district that our schools can't be A schools. And so maybe that's a leadership issue, I would bet on it. Thank you.
Mr. Osceola, let me say. Completely agree with you. Stuff like that should never be said to anyone. That's not critical race theory. You're talking about inappropriate comments.
Somebody who doesn't relate, right, or somebody who doesn't understand critical race theory, this half-hatched training is exactly what provides people with that environment. And critical race theory does tell you 2 + 2 for this person equals 4, but for this other person it's 3 to 5. Okay, in some of the training that we have reviewed in these folders that these parents have submitted to us, it has literally said to grade your black and brown students differently than you grade the white students. So we can't say that that's not the case. That's the training we're providing our educators.
That's not critical race theory.
Okay, well, is it appropriate? Okay, I don't care.
I can't debate whether, I can't tell you, that's the.
So let's name it ABC theory then. ABC theory from now on in Osceola County, when I say ABC theory, I'm talking about anything that if you were to switch the race or ethnicity around would immediately become absolutely unacceptable under any environment. And that's what we have in this school district. We have an absolute situation where we have ethnicity, race, color, origin being an absolute barrier to effective education. And why? Because our leadership is not strong enough to come and say, you know what? We're gonna teach you math. We're gonna teach you English. We're gonna teach you these subject areas here, and you're gonna be good at it no matter where you come from.
I can't, as the lawyer.
Can we call the question that's on the table,
Yeah.
please? Board, can we get a second to that?
Second.
All those in favor of calling the question signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Melendez, second by Ms. Castillo, to approve items 8.03, 8.04, and 8.05. Board, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Pull 1106?
Yes.
Motion carried, I think 4-1.
Oh, sorry, thank you, I got the 4, I can't get, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
11.06, before you go there, I do want to remind the audience, as we're discussing items, yelling at the dais is really not acceptable. We don't interrupt when you're speaking, we're going to ask for the same courtesy, and if people can't do that, we're going to have to ask you to leave. So please work with us here, I don't want to do that. Mr. Arguello, you pulled 11.06, wait a minute, did you pull it or somebody?
I pulled 11.06, sir.
All right.
Okay, so is there anyone on this board who knows the owners of Gravy Works? Which is the vendor in this contract item? No, absolutely, everyone, please. Or is there anyone who knows Ms. Bonilla or Desormi or Mr. Atud, Alexander Atud? Any of the people involved in this company?
Where do you see those names?
Well, it's in the contract, and I found the owners on Sundays. I'm only
I don't
asking.
know those names that you just read.
Okay, so I was only asking out of curiosity to make sure that we're relieved of any conflicts of interest in this situation. This company was started, say again?
Just read the names again, I'm sorry, I was trying to find them.
Lissandra Bonilla, Olivia Desormi, and Alexander Altud.
I do know, for speaking for me.
Right, so this company, we're providing a contract to somebody, right? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this company at all. I'm not saying that I know anything about them that's inappropriate here. But the company was started on December 1st. Within 2 weeks, they had a contract at one of our schools. So that just seemed kind of strange to me. And those are the end of my comments, Mr. Chairman.
Board questions, motions?
They're the lowest responsive bidder, correct?
There's one of two.
Yes. So motion approved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Melendez with a second by Ms. Castillo to approve item 11.06. Board, any further conversation, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries 5-0. That brings us to our regular agenda. Okay, we've got two people to speak on item 14.02, so if it's all right, we'll call them up before we kind of start on 14. Is that all right? Excuse me, very much. First up, Angelica McKinney. Ms. McKinney, 3 minutes.
So it's
Good evening.
NPC and Panorama, I'm gonna do all together.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm gonna do all together, it's NPC and Panorama, doesn't matter.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, start my tongue there. Angelica McKinney, 760 Branch Court. Today, I'm here to ask you to be transparent and inform parents of the Panorama survey. They need to know what type of survey is Panorama, when it's going to be held, not limited to only text or pre-recorded phone call, but to be listed at the district's website. Make the full survey available for parents to see, options for opting out. Last but not least, make sure that parents are aware that their children's psychological profile is at the hands of a third-party company who happens to be Attorney General Carmen Sonido, same Attorney General that will be sending FBI agents against parents. I'm also here to ask to make all mental health material that will be used at the schools available for parents to see. This includes all topics, any paper books, digital books, slideshows, options for opting out, all material. This will save a lot of time from our busy school staff members. In order to see some of the material, like a slideshow, the parent needs to go to the school to view it. The students are not the ones to decide if a topic or lesson is not appropriate. It is the parents. The school district should not expect to be the first one to be approached by the student when some of these topics don't seem right. The students tell parents approach the school or the district. That is the right chain of command. On regards to the new teacher center, do not approve wasting all the money in this program. We don't even have enough teachers to say it helps with teacher retention. It promotes division and segregation. Instead, use those funds and keep them in-house. We have some great teachers that can assist in developing the program according to our county unique needs, and all can benefit from it. Teachers can use the extra money. New teachers will get the needed training, and students will have prepared teachers. I hope the board can be open-minded and consider it as the better option. Do not keep reapproving contracts just because you did it in the past when the intended purpose of the program is no longer existent. Would you keep buying insurance from the same company just because you always have, even when you realize the coverage is almost non-existent and there are better options to choose from? And the last item today is that I would like to challenge you, the school board, will be the one of all of you, to take the lead and clean up all the garbage that is in the school's libraries. Because if we parents will be the ones taking care of removing every single indoctrination divisive book, then we will be the ones that need to decide how the $25,000 needs to be spent. Thank you.
Next on 14.02 is Laura McAdams. got them, she knows the drill.
President good evening, board members.
Did you get the timer up?
As I'm sure all of you know, the NSBA, or the National School Board Association, put out a memo that attempts to discourage parents from speaking out against issues such as the critical race theory. Subsequently, the Department of Justice sent out a memorandum likening parents' discontent with their school districts to domestic terrorists. Almost immediately, one of the school board members wrote a response and a resolution encouraging parents and defending our rights to speak at these meetings. A week after he wrote this, the Florida School Board Association followed suit. Then the National School Board Association apologized for their memorandum. However, the school board is, in all its wisdom, failed to protect and encourage parents who wanted to come here and speak on education matters. How is it that even after the organization whose position you apparently support, at least that's how it looks, you fail to act on your school board members' defense for parents? You cannot tell me that you have a practice that allows parents to speak. So did the County of Osceola, and look how easily, under the cover of COVID-19, they removed the public's ability to speak out on any issues, not just on the agenda. Considering the lack of transparency the school district has demonstrated, can you really expect us to believe that you have any interest in protecting our rights to speak? Your actions tell a different story. I represent more than 160 families in Osceola County on these issues. I believe me when I say we are growing, not just in numbers, but in our frustrations with the district's behaviors and inclinations to do wrong whenever the opportunity comes up to do right. We also found documentation that you guys donated $97,000 to this cause to speak against the board and call us domestic terrorists. I was able to pull this niche.com and of the district school grades online, and I found Seminole County was number 5. They have an A- grade, and we are at number 53 out of 76 school districts in the state of Florida. So I don't know how this is the best run school district, or why we approved a renewed contract for a $25,000 bonus when we're number 53 in the state of Florida. So, just thought I'd let parents know.
All right, board, that brings us to 14.01, 02, and 03, which is the blue sheeted item.
Motion to approve item 1404 to accept all the items.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Melendez, second by Ms. Castillo, to approve item 14.01 or 04, which is all three of those above. Board, any further discussion? Ms.
Yes,
Gargoyle,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm just curious, why aren't we paying veteran teachers to mentor new teachers as opposed to using the NTC?
We are training veteran teachers in the mentoring and coaching process in partnership with NTC.
So what would be considered a veteran teacher?
We have identified mentors who teach half a day or provide instruction half a day during the day, and then provide half a day of mentoring. And they attend a new teacher training to improve their mentoring and coaching skills.
I mean,
It's unrelated to content.
I mean, how many years of service would qualify a teacher to be considered a veteran teacher?
There is no magic number, and we don't evaluate mentoring candidates based on years of experience only. There's also their evaluation ratings, recommendation from the principal, an interview about whether or not they want to be serving this role.
Ms. Isaacs, how long have you been a teacher?
28 proud years.
Would Ms. Isaacs be considered a veteran teacher?
Yes.
So, I'm just trying to understand or grasp this concept. Is there a possibility that Ms. Isaacs would be able to mentor our other teachers without going to NTC? What happened before NTC?
We do not have a formal mentoring program.
Well, we just had a parent come up here and say that we're 53rd, and she compared us to what county?
Seminole County.
Seminole County. So Seminole County has a budget of $1 billion. We have a budget of 1.7 billion, but yet we're, I don't know, maybe I went to Osceola schools, I don't know how to count between those two numbers. But, so here's my question. Why wouldn't we take that 160 grand, give it to April Isaacs so that she can go mentor our students? Why wouldn't we do that? Our teachers. Why wouldn't we do that? Why wouldn't we take a retired teacher and have them come back and mentor our teachers with this 160 grand? There's nothing that the NTC is gonna teach a teacher with 30 years of service, practically, right, almost, that they don't know already. So this is just throwing money away, and it's throwing money away politically. This is not making us a better district. It's not working if it is. If that's what your intent is for this to make us a better district, it's not working. And I'm sorry, I don't come from the education world, I come from the business world where if you lose money, it's not working, you stop. You change direction, right? So why aren't we changing direction with all this NTC, all this other stuff, ABC type of materials, and go back to old school teaching where the teacher and the parents have huge bonds that allow them to provide a student, number one, with the credibility with their teachers, and two, with an environment where they can teach and just be teachers. But instead, you're filling their minds with all this wasted space and time, and then you're preventing them from going home on time on a daily basis to cram more content that is immaterial to getting better grades as a district and as a student. I mean, am I the only one that sees this?
This is the final year of the NTC agreement anyway.
After this, we would only have ask for access to their electronic resources to support the training. We would have our in-house trainers to provide the coaching support.
Yeah, so it's the final year anyway.
Did NTC figure out that 2 + 2 is not 4? It's these concepts that we're supposed to be teaching kids have not changed, right? Maybe we need to start changing the way we think about education. Instead of us just changing this program, adding more and more and more stuff that really has not made us a better district. And if this is the direction that we're going, number one, I don't think that parents are satisfied. Number two, my relationship, or at least the experiences that I have meeting with parents, they're constantly saying, you know what, I'm gonna take my kid out. That's the conversation I have with parents and kids. They're saying that they're leaving. And if what we're depending on is on population growth to fill our schools, so that we have money to send money to NTC instead of getting money, higher salaries to the teachers that we have, it's just bad management. So with that, I will motion to not approve these agenda items.
We actually have a motion by Mr. Melendez and a motion by Ms. Castillo on the floor to approve. Board, any further comments? We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Melendez, second by Ms. Castillo to approve item 14.04. Board, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Could I just assure, that is with the understanding, the language I want about there will be no critical race theory.
It is not. Let's go back and restate that and see if the motion maker and seconder are okay with that.
Yes, I'm willing to amend the motion to say that we approve items 1401, 2, and 3, with the caveat that, especially on item number 2, or I guess all 3 of them, to make sure that CRT is not being specifically taught in the curriculum.
Mr. Melendez, I would also, if you permit me, I would also go a little bit further and say that if this does not result in better grades also, and maybe for once hold ourselves accountable for these products that we're spending tax money on to actually come back with some results.
I second Mr. Melendez's amendment.
Okay, I'm fine. I have one quick question for that. When these types of items come forward in the future, can we get that added to the contract?
Absolutely.
So it won't be.
Mr. Kreppenbaum just suggested that today.
We'll all have them.
We have a motion by Mr. Melendez, second by Ms. Castillo to approve items 14.04 with the addition of the caveats as stated by Mr. Melendez. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1.
Mr. Chairman, could I just, on this issue to close it out. So you know, I've done a lot of
We just
research.
closed it out, go ahead.
I've done a lot of research on this issue, right? I am taking everything I've been given, and I have more to get from some of these parents, and I'm sending it to the Department of Education in Tallahassee. And I'm gonna say, we have received these issues. I would like you to please advise, do you conclude critical race theory is embedded in this or not? This is a significant issue. And it's one that you have to respect everybody's value in it. But we are obligated legally not to teach it. And I think the best way to assure it is as people bring forward things, I will ask for the government to tell us. Because short of that, we're all interpreting something, and they're the ones who regulate us.
Mr. Kroppenbacher, I appreciate that, and my issue is that when you look at the totality of the evidence, right? Not only do we have a whole bunch of junk, right, and literally junk, I'm using that word with intention, junk in the process of providing an education to our kids, and distractions, and just things that are unnecessary, right? And it's not providing us with an opportunity to be a better district, right? So now we're adding some ideology, some politics, we're adding some fancy names, some brand names. It's like, you know, I mean, it's just how much more junk can we fit into our daily, 1.7, that blows my mind. Thank you for bringing that up. $1.7 billion budget, we're 53rd. $1 billion budget, they're 9th. And they have the same number of students. They have 69,000 or 70,000 students, how many?
They're fifth.
They're 5th. So they have just as many students as we do.
They have
So
the same
let me
number of
guess.
students, their funding's close to the same as ours, it's not
So-
$700 million.
So let me, I mean, I Googled their budget and I thought it was maybe.
I don't know,
So
doesn't make sense.
They had 68,000 students.
how many students do we have, Dr. Pace?
So they're 1,000 apart. 68,000, 96 students, and Osceola has 69,925.
So,
That is prior year data.
okay, so what are we, this, I mean, it's not, yeah, exactly, I mean, the difference is like, so the point is, this to me just looks like an absolute perfect candidate to disappear from our education system and to put that money back into the classrooms where they actually need it so that they can provide our kids with an education, you know? And instead of teaching our teachers that kids like me, who come from a family maybe without a super active dad and who are broke and who are brown, maybe we can still make it in this world instead of telling us that, oh, well, your name's Arguello, you're not gonna make it, sorry, buddy. You know, because if that's what we're teaching our kids, then, I mean, it's just a shame. It's just a shame, and this is just a waste.
All right, we're done with that item. Let's move on to item 15. Board,
Motion approved 1504 with the caveat that all the items get approved together because we just wanted to make sure that as a practice that the district increases administrative staff last after all the units have been approved. So even though we're doing it at once, I just want to make it clear for the record that all the, or I'm asking Dr. Payson, is it true then that all the units then have now come to an agreement on their salary increases, correct?
For the 21-22 school year.
Okay, so now I motion to approve 1504 as submitted.
A second.
a motion by Mr. Melendez, second by Mr. Bass to approve item 15.04. Board, any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Kroppenbacher, please stop me if I'm violating some kind of labor law issue here, but I just want to say that these, first of all, congratulations, Ms. Isaacs and Mr. Allen, and to your bargaining team. I think this was a great step towards a sane place, you know, and I think that there's a lot more room to go. $1.7 billion. I found 168 that you guys can have. I don't think that we'll miss it. And I know that there's several more of these types of contracts. I bet you guys would really love to see the day where you guys are just teaching kids, you know, and doing the best you can for our families. And I pray that before I get sick and tired of being up here, that it happens for you guys, because you guys deserve, that's the environment that you guys deserve. And I know that this is just more weights, more wasted time. But congratulations on a great job, great, well done work. Continue pushing.
Board, not seeing any other Lights on. All those in favor of the motion by Mr. Melendez, second by Bass, to approve item 15.4, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries 5-0. Brings us to facilities, item 16.
Motion to approve 16.04.
Second.
Have a motion by Ms. Castillo with a second by Mr. Melendez to approve item 16.04. Board? Seeing no lights, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries 5-0. That brings us to item 17.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question on this.
Okay, I think there's several on this maybe. You, go ahead.
The one, I'd like to know what the lost costs are here, right? So it's, and I don't know, I'm not super familiar with this, but it looks like there's a plan for nutritional services in the warehouse. I read the email from one of our assistant superintendents. What are the lost? What are the lost costs here? The throwaway costs, what are they? Do we know?
Not sure what you mean by lost costs.
Some cost? Is that what you mean?
Well, like,
Are you talking about for having freezer trucks and delivering?
right, yeah, I mean, so basically, we're gonna buy fridges, right? We're gonna do, what is this gonna cost us?
What's it gonna cost
That
us
doesn't
for-
provide us with an asset in return.
Dr. Pace?
Our goal is to lease this on a short-term basis to get us from January to June. Ms. Gordon and her team have an RFP ready to go out in January to get us back out of the distribution system. While we were notified by US Foods in the summer that they were going to cancel the contract that they had with the Power by Group, at that time, we were working with our Power by Group we got a 3-month extension so that Citrus County, as the holder, could go out for an RFP. However, when they went out for RFP, they only had one responsive bidder and ended up rejecting that bid. So over the course of the last month, because all this has transpired in the last month, we were not gonna have services at all as of December 31st, or at when winter break began. Ms. Gordon and her team has been working with the state, has been working with the federal government, with FDACS, to come up with some alternatives. They talked to the other major food distribution companies, Gordon, PFG, as well as Cisco and US Foods. US Foods picked up a few of the other districts, but refused to do the larger districts. They only would do smaller ones that where their hubs were. We got the best deal from Cisco. Unfortunately, Cisco, however, still also has trouble with distribution capacity. So they will only deliver to the district as opposed directly to schools on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So our goal is to lease the freezer space through the course of the next 6 months as opposed to buying space on a regular basis. We would get back into a more standard form of distribution. Ms. Gordon is also proposing that we go out of the Power by Group and instead negotiate as a district for our own contract for the upcoming school year. But this is our emergency fix to get us through the end of the school year. We're having issues with both the supply
Where are we
chain
gonna
in terms
put
of
this stuff?
commodities, as well as then just the supply chain of labor and distribution. Freezer space will be out here outside of our warehouse area. We also are leasing a couple more of the refrigerated trucks, I believe, Judith, and working to make this stuff happen. We'll repurpose some existing staff. Fortunately, our SNS budget had a strong reserve, but the goal is to propose postponing 3 of the cafeteria renovation projects so that at the end of the year, we still are in good shape in terms of fund balance, but we can cover the increased cost. Because just cost per case of food has gone up from $1.27 to $4.51 a case. Food and paper cost has increased by an average of 30%. So those are the challenges that we're facing. We are not alone in this. This has been a problem across the district and across the nation.
So outside here, like outside in one of our warehouses or outside?
Outside of our warehouse will be these freezer-like spaces, right?
It'll be in the Vandal Watch area that we used to have right over here.
So like in the parking lot?
It's a concrete pad.
So it's actually gonna be outside, exposed to the environment?
Correct, these units are made for outside and they're portable units.
Mr. Agrella, it's a refrigerated semi-trailer. And then we would have refrigerated trucks for delivery. The Vandal Watch has moved away from down there at that end parking lot. So there's a pad there. Mr. Cavney has designed a plan to temporarily locate them there.
So does this mean that do we have to hire more people due to this?
5 to 7.
May I ask Judith to come up to give you a full
Sure.
breakdown?
Mr. Kruppenbacher, while she's coming up here, do we have a claim against US Foods?
No, per the contract, there's 22 districts so far located that are moving in this direction. They all got dumped on at the last minute. The concern I have is we may have more vendors doing this in light of the shortage of everything, but.
But they're just dumping these contracts so that they can come back and resubmit under a different cost apparatus, right? I mean.
No, I think they'd try and renegotiate if they could. They just simply wrote and said, as of X date.
We give up.
I think what's happening candidly is they have lots of private customers who are paying more and they're having trouble servicing everyone. So they're going, you know what, we're gonna take care of our higher paying customers right now.
So before you guys brief on the situation here, how much money are we losing in the renovation then? In the 3 projects that were coming up?
We're relocating those funds to support this temporary service instead of the renovations.
The total cost increase for this provision of service and the supplies of the commodities is $2.6 million.
What about the money that we've already spent towards these renovations?
We haven't spent any of them, they were planned projects, so we've not lost anything.
So we haven't put any, and then when will the projects be put back online?
Hopefully the following summer. These are summer projects that we typically do, and it would be the following summer that we would be able to put those back online.
So the total cost for this adjustment is $3 million?
2.6.
Mr. Melendez, your light's been on. Do you want to ask your question, or do you want to let them go, or?
No, I'll ask the question because I guess it's part of that situation, because I asked Dr. Pace today too, and I know it's kind of happening kind of fast, and I got Randy's email. Because one thing I was asking was, because you have US Foods and then Cisco's the new vendor, right? The question I was talking to earlier was, can we just ask US Foods what price they would do for the delivery part? Because if obviously they had the logistics before, they were doing it. Now, I guess if the private sector is competing, it's more expensive. You know, before going to the direction of leasing our own spaces, did we try to say US Foods, hey, would we like to increase your distribution fee? So instead of us paying to do all this logistical work, can we just pay US Foods a little bit more temporarily just for them to still get them to distribute it to
That
schools?
question was asked and we were declined. It's not a matter of perhaps getting higher prices from somewhere else. They just don't have the logistics, the trucks, the manpower to service us. Cisco is the one was able to pick us up until June, and we are.
And they don't have the capacity to go to each individual school?
No, they don't.
Or they just chose that they don't want to? Do we want to pay them like a higher rate to Cisco too then?
We have asked and they don't have the capacity to do that. The answer was no.
Nobody can get truck drivers.
Yeah. And it is what it is. I mean, it's an ugly situation, but we didn't create it.
We did check with Mr. Parker about the breach of contract as well this morning, and he said that, you know, they followed all the procedures to get out.
So the notice was 30 days?
No, they gave notice in June. We got an extension. The problem was that when Citrus County rejected the bid that came in from the RFP.
Then we were out of gas, I got
Then
you.
we were out of gas, exactly.
How many truck drivers are we gonna have to hire?
We're looking at 2.
If the labor pool is that tight, are you gonna be able to get 2?
We have 2 people in-house.
Yeah.
We're hoping to train. And we've already done the homework to send them to a school in Orlando, I believe it is, truck driver training. And then, of course, we need people to pool the items, you know, what they call pickers. You know, Amazon pools your items, puts them on the pallet, send to you, same idea.
Yeah, because that was an issue I asked earlier. Can we get school bus drivers in between and do it? But some school bus drivers can't lift 50-pound boxes and stuff like that. It's about getting the food to the actual final destination.
It's a little different license, I have to, it's class A.
Yeah, it's not as far as driving the semi. I think Julius is talking about people to do the picking in between. And we are trying to.
So I mean, yeah, whoever can, maybe they volunteer and say, hey, you know, if they want
A few hours here or there, you know,
But I guess the biggest thing too then moving forward is we're gonna approve this, but then maybe we could look at finding a long-term solution, whether it's talking to other companies. I know I was talking to one company that I was mentioning before. I just wanna be transparent with the board that we are trying to find something a little bit more sustainable and redo it differently, not be stuck.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna go lost. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I guess.
Move to approve 1701.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bass, second by Mr. Melendez to approve item 17.01. Board, any further? Seeing none. All those in favor of motion 17.01 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries 5-0. Brings us to public comment. First one up, David Valek, I believe you have a youngster with you. We'll let you go first. And Mr. Valek, you have 3 minutes, if you would. The timers will be on the screens there beside you.
Okay,
And hold on just a second.
all right.
Wait just a second, let them, so you can be uninterrupted. Okay, whenever you're ready.
Okay, my name is David Black, I'm from Celebration, and I might be better known as Tiger's dad. I'm gonna pass these around. Good. Tiger is 8 years old, he's autistic, and he's what we call an autistic savant artist. He won 3 blue ribbons at the Osceola County Fair, competing against middle school kids last year. He's been on WKMG. He's been featured by Autism Speaks. He's in a national campaign with him right now. In August, he was the youngest artist at MegaCon. He is a featured artist with MegaCon. And if you're a DVC member, he is in the latest issue of Disney Files magazine, right here. We go to the parks and we drop by. This is his character, is the autistic tiger. And he has a presence online. Now, Tiger goes to Celebration K-8. He is in 3rd grade, and this past Monday there was an incident at timer's over there at the Celebration that only involved 3rd grade boys. And I don't want to get into the particulars of that, but parents at Celebration did not like my response to the incident. And they have not discussed it with me. They have gone online and attacked my son online. They have gone to his YouTube channel. I've got the receipts here. They have been downvoting or disliking his videos en masse. I've been working with YouTube to stop this, to at least ban the users from coming to Tiger's channel, if not ban them outright, and to rectify the negative feedback that's been pounded onto his account. Now, Tiger's YouTube account isn't huge by any stretch of the imagination. He's got 340 subscribers. But that's kind of an inflection point, whether you're going to take off or you don't. And it's like going down the freeway and slamming on the brakes. You know, these negative attacks, even though they get fixed, they stop momentum, and it takes time to build it back up. So I would like the board to acknowledge that cyberbullying of a child is wrong in any circumstance, because the Osceola County policy on cyberbullying only addresses child-to-child cyberbullying. It does not address cyberbullying by a parent, an administrator, a teacher, or staff. And I would like for you to make a proclamation that you are against any type of cyberbullying against a child, and that you would amend your policy to cover those other people that we would never expect would cyberbully a child. But I'm sure if your child were attacked because of something you said in this board meeting, you would be really, really upset. It is wrong under any circumstance. And art is the only thing he has going for him. He doesn't talk that much. When I think about his future, it's really art. And we just hope that he can develop his talent to the point where he can make a living and he doesn't have to be on SSI. All right, Mr. Chairman, just for essence of time too, I'm willing to bring that up during the board member comments at the very end of the board meeting to discuss.
Mr. Arguello had already chimed in too, so.
Yeah,
that may have to do with you.
Maybe add it to new business instead of the comments, right?
Yeah, we'll do it that way.
So
We'll address this.
we'll address it.
We're gonna stick around if anybody wants to meet Tiger afterwards. Thank you.
sir.
Can I have these? They're really good.
Next up, and I know.
They are nice
though. Yali Marie Diaz. And be followed by Tammy Fitzgibbon. That should be ready, Ms. Fitzgibbon. Did I get that close?
Good evening, board members. My name is Jolimari Diaz. I'm the parent of 2 children at the Osceola School District. I came to this meeting to ask what is happening at the school district. I trust my children to send them to school to be safe and learn. So this past Friday, I have to deal with an incident that you don't want that any of your children be exposed to. I sent my children school bus, that as always. My son went to the school bus. They have to call me from the school, from New York City, that my son, he was full of his feces on all his clothes, shoes, pants, clothes, book bag. Okay? I work for the school district too. So I expect the respect for my children too, as I respect the children of the other ones. So I have to pick up my son at school. Dr. Osceola told me that somebody from transportation will call me. No one called. I called by myself to ask to see if they can do an investigation. No one returned me the phone call. So I pick up my son, bring him home. On Monday, I send my son to school as always. What happened? The same disgusting situation was inside the bus. So my son took pictures. I showed evidence to Dr. Siebel. Today is Tuesday. No one hasn't called me to at least say that they are investigating the case. So this is a problem because we are a district that we goes to customer service based. So we are a district that we have to take care of our students at school, not be dealing with that situation. So I'm really concerned. I'm really concerned that is the care of my child. I don't know what else is happening at the school district. So I'm bringing this concern because I'm really, really, really upset about that. I was expecting much more that someone at least from the school district, because it was several people involved. And the only face that I have to be talking to, it was Dr. Siebel and Dr. Mission. And I was expecting, and I'm so proud of both of them, because great leader does that, take action. Nobody else from transportation, nobody else from the school district called me. Nobody told me that they did an investigation, no one. So I'm pretty concerned.
Ma'am, did you say feces?
Feces.
I'm Dr. Pace.
And he's my son.
What route number?
It was route 718.
Dr. Pace, can you?
What day did that happen?
So the feces, it was there since last Tuesday, and Monday when I went on the day route, they cleaned it finally because of Dr.
It
Siebel.
was October 29th, last Friday, it happened last Friday.
So what was the time frame in between the 2 times that you went to that seat and it was still there?
So
Monday, I sent my son Monday, that happened on Friday, I sent my son on Monday, and we can show you the picture. It's the horrible thing. At the beginning
So
of
he
the
sat in it on Friday, I just want to understand, and then on Monday, the feces was still there
correct,
on the school bus.
on the school bus. So when the school year started, they said that they would sanitize the buses and they would take care of our children. I don't think that is what is happening, because you have and poop on Friday. You report it, and it's still on Monday, someone is not doing their job.
Dr. Pace is gonna get about, your phone number is on here.
It's on over
So
there.
Dr. Pace, can you take care of that and follow up?
Ma'am,
So,
Thank you.
please make sure you get to Dr. Pace the photo
The photo,
so that there's a complete.
It's okay if you don't have them.
I have them. I'll try comments. I have them.
Well, after the meeting's done, we'll definitely make sure Dr. Pace gets one.
At the end of the meeting?
Yeah, at the end of the meeting, we'll link up.
Oh, no.
I don't think everybody on this board agrees that's not acceptable at all. That it happened or the lack of follow-up. So, very sorry. You too, sir.
I'm gonna give you my card. Would you call me, please? Thank you.
To all of you for fixing what happened, and that is unacceptable.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and telling us. Ms. Fitzgibbons, is up and should be followed by Karen Baker. Are you ready, please?
I'm Tammy Fitzgibbon from Kissimmee, Florida. I just wanted to talk about John's resolution.
Give us 1 second. So they're not talking. Sorry.
I just wanted to talk about John's resolution that he told us about last school board meeting. I don't know why this board is so against each other. It is it's in your policy that you say it is, then why not just agree to it? You're supposed to be here for the community, the parents, the students, and the staff. Not agreeing to this only throws up a red flag to me. I don't trust you one bit. I think you'd do anything, even breaking the law, to push your agenda. Us parents want the resolution that John stated last board meeting. And why you guys don't agree to that, I have no clue why. That's all I have to say.
Karen Baker. And Ms. Baker will be followed by Brian Bissonette.
Can we just ask, why is it so cold in here all the time? We're all freezing to death.
You must be hogging the cool air down there.
Yeah, it's cold. I have here a copy of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States of America. This is my copy. I have several, and I do hand them out to my grandkids and whoever. But the preamble for the Constitution of the United States states, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do, ordain, and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." This is what our children should be learning, not CRT. They should be taught about our country and the good and not so good things that have happened. We need to learn from both. They should be proud of our flag and country and what it stands for and what our men and women died for. When was the last time you visited Washington, D.C., or Gettysburg, or Boston, New York City, and other places where there is so much history that can be shared with our children? There are wonderful monuments to be seen, no matter what side someone fought for or their political ideals. They are reminders of the people who fought and died for what they believed, right or wrong. There is not one of us perfect. We have all sinned. There was only one man who was perfect, and that was Jesus Christ. Did you know that there is a cap on top of the Washington Monument that says, "Praise be to God"? And there are many other places and monuments who acknowledge God, our Creator. Thomas Paine in American Crisis stated, "These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands by it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. What we obtain too cheap, we esteem too lightly. It is dearness only that gives everything its values. Heaven knows how to put a proper price upon its goods, and it would be strange indeed if so celestial an article as freedom should not be highly rated. And Paine called for all Americans to join the fight against tyranny. I call not upon all, not on this state or that state, but on every state. Up and help us. Lay your shoulders to the wheel. Better have too much force than too little, when so great an object is at stake. Let it be told to the future world that in the depth of winter, when nothing but hope and virtue could survive, that the city and the country, alarmed at one common danger, came forth to meet and to repulse it. Thomas Jefferson said, if a law is unjust, a man is not only right to disobey it, he is obligated to do so. Our children don't belong to the government or school boards, neither do the parents. Our government and school boards belong to the people. God gave us our children to us to raise and nurture and to teach them about the freedoms that America affords to everyone, no matter race or skin color. We are all one race. Your job is to teach, not indoctrinate, and I ask that the schools and people who have opposing views stop trying to divide our children and the people of our nation.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Somebody, that door may be locked, I think.
Hi.
Just 1 second.
Sure thing.
You may proceed. I'm evidently hearing things.
Okay. Brian Bissett, 1829 Henley Street, St. Cloud. First, Ms. Castillo, happy birthday.
Thank you.
And second, I'd just like to say we talked about some issues earlier about minority students and their success rate. I'll just tell you that it's very easy to get these kids to succeed. When I was a professor of military science at Southern University at HBCU, we were 40th out of 40 schools when it came to a variety of tools to measure your success. When I left, we're 18. Why? Because I told these kids, you may have started from a disadvantaged background, but doesn't mean you can't be number one now. And guess what we did? We moved from 40 to 18. So just throwing that at you to say these kids can succeed and can be extremely successful if given that opportunity. But I really want to discuss a bit about the ESC students being migrated from regular classrooms if they scored high enough on their aptitude test. From my understanding, this was directed by the state. As a state directive, it is a general requirement for all school districts, but doesn't talk about how the transition needs to occur. The reason is because the state expects the districts to develop those transition plans. As of now, I don't know if we fully thought through that. First, I think this is a great decision by the state. I don't like to see students who learn differently or who may not absorb information quickly as others segregated from non-ESC students. This can stigmatize those students and erode their own self-belief that they can be successful in life. Obviously, there are students who will be unable to attend regular classes due to severe mental impairments, but most ESC students are not in that category. I have 3 daughters, and my 5th grader is in an ESC program and has been since kindergarten. She also has the same birthday as Ms. Castillo today. She has made great progress and has remained in regular classrooms, but was removed from remedial language classes, which due to her hard work and outside tutoring that we got her into, she no longer needs that she still gets in-classroom assistance, but the last thing I want for her is to be removed from regular classes. We should all want the same for every ESC student who isn't severely mentally impaired. Also, by segregating ESC students in high school, we are telling them they are not good enough academically to get a normal high school diploma, which I think is very wrong. Transition. First, I am volunteering to help any member of the school district to develop that plan. Dr. Pace, glad to help out anytime I can. Those things. Just a few ideas I've thrown out there, and I'm almost out of time. Is first we have to do things with the parents. It has to be a team effort between the parents and the school and the teachers and the administrators. Skipping some of these things. In the classroom, assistance must also be available for those students. That in-class assistance with schools ensuring proper and authorized accommodations are provided when requested by the students. Thought should be given to a class in middle school and high school where ESC students are taught study habits and test-taking strategies, and that would be an elective for them to take. Oh, yes, I'll go ahead and smoke.
You're almost finished. If you could, you talk about it. Go ahead,
I'll
Ron.
jump to the end. There's a lot of other ideas that I have, but let us all work together to help these students without marginalizing them by segregating them from the larger student body and offering them a lesser diploma upon high school graduation. They can all be successful in life with a little help from all of us. Thank you.
Next up is, I'm sorry, I apologize. Mr. Bissonnette, we have Mr. Arguello.
Mr. Bissonnette, you're not the parent that reached out to me regarding this issue though, right?
No, I just commented on it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Next up be Shirley Pierre. Good evening. Please give us your name and address for the record.
Hello,
Three
good
minutes.
evening, my name is Shirley Pierre, I live in Kissimmee, Florida. And my daughter attends Eastlake Elementary School. Since the school year started, I listened to NPR, they said that there's a school bus driver shortage, so I'm aware of that, and my husband and I have been very flexible. Sorry, my glasses are fogging up. We've been very flexible in making arrangements for our kids to get to school. My daughter sometimes sits on the floor because there's no seat, and I understand the bus drivers are making 2 rounds. But I would say the last 2 weeks, it's been worse. Last week, I had to take 3 days off work, and my husband had to take 2 days off. This week, I've paid someone to pick her up and drop her to school. It's just that right now, my manager, both of my job, my husband and my job, they're like, we can't keep working around your work schedule, your schedule for your school. And I'm just seeing what option, like what you guys have planned, so we can resolve this. Unfortunately, I can't be a stay-at-home mom. That's not an option for me. I'm from New York, so most of my support system is in New York, so I don't have like an auntie to call to drop my kids to school. And it's sad, like this morning, there was 4 kids that walked back home because they had no one to drop them. This is according to my mother-in-law, because I was at work. And the kids just walked back home because they have no one to take them. So a lot of kids are missing days of school. And I put my name on the waiting list for extended day, so I can drop my daughter in before school start, but I'm on the waiting list, so that's not an option. Also too, I was wondering if there's like a hybrid model, the days that my daughter is not able to go to school, get picked up, maybe she can go home and work at the laptop. I mean, I just don't want her to be missing days of school, and as a parent, it tears me apart to choose my job over my kids' education, but I have to put food on the table, so, but it's hard to say, you know what, hey, like tomorrow I call the manager for transportation, her name is Christina Moses, and she said, there's a possibility that your kid may not go to school tomorrow because we don't have a bus driver. And sadly, I have to keep her home tomorrow because I can't take another day off from work. And so I just wanted to bring that up to your attention. I don't think any parent should have to make such a decision. And I know some other places, I'm from a poor country, and I know some kids have to walk to school. I don't have that privilege of having a bus driver, and we do. But as taxpayer, we've learned to have that privilege, and we don't want it to be taken away. And it kills me that my daughter may not go to school tomorrow. And giving online classes, or something that if she doesn't make it to school, she can just log on and maybe do some schoolwork, so she doesn't miss it. And I know everywhere has shortage. I mean, at my job, we're short of nurses. They're giving $5,000 bonus if you recommend a nurse. So shortage is everywhere. But I just want to know what's going on, and maybe a hybrid where they can do schoolwork at home if you guys are short. So I do want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you guys. But it's I think today is very hard for me, knowing that I have no way of getting my daughter to school tomorrow. I have to work.
Thank you very much. I think we have a question. I just want to thank you for all your effort and care of your child to get them where they need to be. Mr. Arguello?
Yeah, my question is for the superintendent, actually.
Actually,
Dr.
I did
Pace.
email Dr. Pace. I emailed you. I called the principal and assistant principal, didn't return my call. I spoke with the manager. She said, Shirley, my hands are tied. They said they subcontracted with a coach company. And I said, you know what, if you guys can at least tell me when the bus is not coming, I can tell my manager I'm running late just to drop my kids to school. But according to them, the company that they subcontract with don't tell them when you're not coming. So they can't alert the parents that the bus is not coming. So like today, the bus is supposed to come at 7:35 and it was 8 o'clock. The bus did not show up and school starts at 8:25. And then so by the time I got the lady that I'm paying, and it gets expensive to pay someone every day too to drop your daughter to school. She called me and she was like, there's a lot of kids in the bus stop and they're heading home, and she was like, there's no, I don't have control of the vendor that we're using to tell us when you're not coming to pick your kids up. Cause if they can tell us ahead of time, I mean, look, my manager, if I have to work later, to drop my daughter off, I will. It's just that, it's just unpredictable. So, and then I work way out in Celebration. So for me to leave work and pick up my daughter and drop her to school, I mean, she's already missing class.
All right, I think we got the issue.
Okay.
Mr. Arguello, you had a question?
Yes.
Did we?
No.
Go
I
ahead.
have a question, but my question is for the superintendent.
Yeah, I think you could,
Ma'am, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody, thank you.
Dr. Pace, so are these excused absences when this happens?
Yes, that would be an excused absence, but it's still something that we're working hard to try to get work against. I've already asked Dr. Reyes to also reach out to our extended learning program to see if we can make space in extended day at East Lake, but we're also working daily with transportation to try to get this resolved. We had some new drivers start this week, but it's just this revolving door. We have the new salaries going into effect and the November 15th paycheck, but it's still just this constant issue. And I'm not making excuses, it's unacceptable. We're just gonna have to keep doing what we have to do.
Here, I think this is another great example of what happens when we're not taking care or being good stewards of the taxpayer money. We could be paying these bus drivers a salary or I keep thinking sueldo in Spanish, but we could be paying them a competitive pay if maybe programs like this that's not helping Mrs. Isaacs be a mentor to some other teacher. And it just, every single time, I know that I'm being repetitive, I know it may be obnoxious, but the fact is, this is why we should be being better stewards of the taxpayer money so that we can resolve the problems that are actually a challenge for our kids to be educated, as opposed to all of this other junk. Maybe some refocus, a reset button would be great about right now.
Good.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Pace, or Mr. Shatera, one thing that, and I apologize, I forgot your name, the parent, Ms. Pierre, thank you, brought up was that we are using the subcontractors. That was part of the strategy that we implemented in order to try to mitigate this national, dare say international issue. But she did mention that the vendors we do not have access to understand where they are, to get their geographical location. I know that's linked to Here Comes the Bus. What is the mechanism in our buses that allows us to communicate with them, and is that something that we can implement to our vendors?
Well, we should be able to radio out to them. One of the reasons this company came on was because they're supposedly on our radio system, so I'm not sure why that response was given to this pair, or the other response was not to someone else.
Okay, so to be clear, so you can help me understand how, I know how Here Comes the Bus works as an outsider because I communicate with parents and they tell me when they get the message, but can you give me the mechanism to how you get the information, how we get it from dispatch to the parent or to the system that communicates with the parent?
GPS system on the bus.
Okay.
Wakes up, lets us know, lets them know.
So it bypasses us, it goes directly into the app?
Yeah.
Okay, so it seems like what you're telling me is that right now there's a radio communication, and then after we get that information, we let the parents know.
There's not a radio communication. Our buses are using the GPS system.
Right.
Their buses don't have that, but we should be able to radio and know.
Okay.
We should be able to know if the bus is saying, the company's not going there for it.
I suppose my question is there a way for us to bypass that bottleneck?
We do not know, I have to check.
Yeah, because, some kind, whatever is in our buses, can we have that in the vendors as well, so that there's more of a streamlined communication? Not solving your issue, Ms. Pierre, at all, clearly, but part, there are aspects to this that we can try to control.
So the company we're using is on a temporary contract. But we also have an RFP out to get a company, so, the other contract was $50,000. About, $4,000 or $5,000 a day. We don't really have that many days. By the time we got it installed, we'll be taking it out.
I understand.
But if we're gonna go to the RFP, we need to take a look at that system point.
I think that if possible, that would be something to consider, is making sure that we have direct communication with our third party and our parents. Thank you.
Mr. Melendez?
Yeah, I don't know the technical specs of it, but the GPS is on the bus, but the phones also have GPSs. Why don't we ask the next app vendor to track the GPS on the phones instead of on the bus itself? So that way we can download the app on any new vendor that wants to drive, because everything else is tracked on the phone. And the phone moves too, and the GPS will move and follow the dot as well. So
Sounds
instead of,
possible, we would probably have to supply every driver a phone.
yes, no, but when we talk about the RFP for the new one coming up, that could be part of the scope of the RFP. Is can the app be linked to the phone as opposed to the physical GPS of the bus?
Certainly look into that as well, thank you for that.
Okay, next up to speak is Jeff Hawk. Mr. Hawk will be followed by Mark Peters. And guess what, Larry? You're after that.
Good evening, my name is Jeff Hawk. I live in Casino Way, down in Kissimmee. So, a few of you know me, Mr. Osceola, Dr. Pace. We've had conversations in the past about bullying in the schools, but that's not why I'm here today. Why I'm here today is that my private vehicle, along with my neighbor, played bus driver this morning when the bus decided to completely skip our street, go pick up another stop, and skip 7 more streets because they were running late. You have a problem here in this district with not only paying and supporting your teachers, but making sure that the kids are getting transportation to the schools. Dr. Pace, you say that it's an excused absence when they miss the bus. I guarantee you it's not. My son has 4 of them already, and it's not excused. What I see is, this is my first meeting I've ever been to, but I do watch them online. I watch the comments on Facebook, and I'm sure some of you have seen mine, and yes, they're not nice, but that's just me. Is a failed system based off a failed military system where all we did was contract out instead of spending the $1 million that we spent to train a soldier to guard a gate. We paid $5 million for a civilian to guard the gate and did the job lackluster. It's time to fix it. Quit contracting out. You pay bus drivers $13 an hour. I've had a bus license for 21 years. And I'll tell you right now, if you offered me a job, I'd laugh at you. I left New York making $22.50 an hour driving a bus. I drove a bus in the United States Army for 10 years, in combat and in country. You spend money on so many different programs that don't work. The parents here are proving it, that it doesn't work. Start paying your teachers, start paying your bus drivers. I have a friend that drives for this district, 23 years, she doesn't even make $16 an hour. I can make that at McDonald's, starting out. You guys, all of you, I will point you all out, have failed this county, have failed this school system, and are failing the parents. That's it, thank you.
Mr. Hawk, I will say I've never had a pleasant Army bus ride. Maybe it was
You've
your
never
fault.
ridden my bus before that.
Mr. Peters, name, address for the record in 3 minutes.
Thank you for cleaning that up, Jeff Hawkins here. Good evening, school board members, Dr. Pace, thank you for having me here this evening. Happy birthday, Ms. Castillo, and thank you for your presentation of the legislative delegation. And also, most importantly, thank you for standing up to Senator Torres when he was trying to orange our Osceola with a mask mandate. Kind of went off track of what you were presenting and asking your question. You stood your ground and you explained why Osceola did not have a mask mandate. And it was about numbers, it was the mitigation processes we have in place. Even though you said that you are for a mask, you didn't put yourself there. You presented the numbers and stuck to the, I thank you for that. Well, I know last meeting, we did not have an invocation, we had a moment of silence. And that's the first time that we started it, that I'm looking back at all the meetings we had, and today is the second time. And I wondered what prompted the change and why the sudden change. It wasn't notified. Like, I guess that's not something you tell the, parents or anyone and make notification that that's gonna be a change. But why can't we have both? We can have a moment of silence and still have an invocation. Next, the half a penny sales tax, that's a school sales tax, it's labeled as, is coming up on the end. And I know Dr. Pace mentioned it last meeting, it wasn't on the agenda, that there's gonna be something coming up for discussion. Out of that half a penny sales tax, what portion, what percentage comes to the school board? Because from my understanding, it's not as much as goes to the Osceola County. So if it's labeled as a half a penny sales tax, and it's labeled as a school tax, 100% should be coming to the school. I would like to know if 100% is coming to the school, or how it's divided up.
Keep going, I'll answer that when you get.
Oh, awesome. And the next thing I want to just leave with you, and as I know Jeff as well, and you guys are in a position that we don't always see eye to eye in things that you do, but we're judging your action. And sometimes we don't know what you're going on behind the scene, and we can judge what you do here because we're seeing and the things that you pass. But getting to know you would be a place where I think we start. And that's holding private meetings within your district. So we can get to know who you are, we can get to know your heart for this county. Because right now, sometimes all we see is what you are voting on. And you're not always voting on the things that we desire. There's a quote, and you take this however you want. Education is a weapon whose effect depends on who holds it in his hands and at whom it is aimed. You know who said that? Stalin, Joseph Stalin. Thank you very much.
Wait just a second, I'll answer your question on sales tax.
Yes.
First off, there's two different sales taxes. There is a half-cent school district sales tax.
Mhm.
There's also another penny that's a county sales tax that the school district shares in. The county shares in that at a quarter of that 1 cent. The other half-cent goes to the county, and the other quarter%, is that split between the two cities?
No, the district.
Huh?
The district, I think you confused, or you mentioned the district, didn't I?
School district gets a quarter.
Yeah, it's quarter, right?
Osceola County gets a half. Did I say it backwards? I did.
You said it right.
And the two cities share an eighth and an eighth.
Okay, so out of the 7.5% that we pay, half a cent comes directly, the whole 100% of that.
Yes, those are two different.
And then 1%, so that leaves 1%, which is 7, that splits up. That's what he's saying.
The 1% is split, yeah, it's two different deals.
But I'm trying to see.
The one that's sunsetting is the 1 cent that is shared.
Oh, the 1 cent is sunsetting?
Yeah, the half cent was put in, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, it has another 15, 16 years.
And then
That's the one that goes 100% for capital.
Okay, wonderful.
And then when it's sunsetting, I want to see if we could reverse that. Instead of the county getting 50% and us getting 25%, maybe you start a little petition, have it go the other way around, where we get 50% and the county gets 25%. Because we all know that when the county pushes a sales tax, it never gets passed. If this thing passes, it's because the school district needs the funds more than the county. So that's one thing I'm pushing. I don't know if I have the rest of the board support, but that's something I would do, because sales tax never passes by the county by itself.
Well,
They need us to pass
if the
that
county
money.
comes out and says they're pushing it, believe me, it will defeat it.
Right.
If it
But
doesn't
just to let the
doesn't
people
have to
know,
be aimed
we
at the
needed to
school,
maintain our schools
I
and keep
understand
them
that, but
running.
if county says it's for us, we're gonna fight them to defeat it.
Well,
Unless we know it's coming to you guys, so I will support the split going 50 this way. Thank you.
Mr. Allen.
Good evening, Larry Allen, 722 Mavett. Have no intentions of speaking tonight. I'm speaking as an individual, only because there are some things, some phrases being thrown around that are presented as facts and then not necessarily so. I just want to point out that we can disagree without being disagreeable, and I still want to have that beer, sir. We just got to get together and make it happen. I'm also a combat veteran. You may or may not know that. And when I departed from the Army, I was thinking, teaching,
How hard can it be? And I think that's what we see a lot in society. If you think about it from your very first day of life, your very first week of life, you've ridden in a car, right? But I promise you, everybody think back to the first time you were behind the wheel. Totally different story, right? And I think that's what we suffer from because we've been to school, we think we know what teaching's all about. And we make all kinds of assumptions. But what we don't take into account is that these paraprofessionals, these educators, they just make it look easy. You simplified, I think you oversimplified when you said like 2 + 2 = 4, and I agree with you about the veteran teachers. That would be awesome. If we could have veteran teachers bringing up the new teachers, that would be awesome. Because they could take them under their wing, show them, what works, what doesn't work. But at the same time, you can be a 30-year teacher, and there are still things that you can learn. Someone may have a different perspective than you and thought of something that you have not thought of in 30 years. And I think that circles back to, Stephen Covey, sharpening the saw. You're always getting better. You're always honing your craft. Just because it's on the internet does not make it true. We heard that we're 53 out of 67 counties, what have you, and I've never heard a niche. I did like a 2-minute search, and I started looking at what they base their grades on. Okay, whichever. But what I'm saying is just because it's put out there does not make it fact. Looks like 11%, 17% is based on statistics. And some of the categories they're grading are average score of colleges that students are most interested in going to attend. Average SAT scores, okay, that's pretty good. Percentage of seniors who go on to 4-year colleges. All right, that may be important, it may not be. But just because we're 53, that doesn't necessarily make us bad. At one point, the FCAT, and correct me if I say this wrong, we have these subcategories, right? You have one, let's say, Asian student, and he fails. The whole school fails. And so you get a bad grade for the school. But that's not necessarily a bad school. Do you understand what I'm saying? Am I out of time? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I will not take up any more of your time.
I have a question for
If
Mr.
teachers had the power to indoctrinate, I think they'd make kids do their homework.
Stay here. Mr. Arguello, I believe, was first, and then you're up, Jason.
So, Mr. Allen, a couple things. One, saws don't sharpen by themselves, right? Saws get dull as they cut. And that's just a fact. That's somebody who's used a saw many times.
I'm just trying to put the two, whatever we're coming with next,
Well, here's what I'm trying to say is that in order for a saw to be sharpened, you need a tool that sharpens the saw. So if we're using ineffective equipment that's not sharpening our saws, all we're doing is getting dull, that we're paying for it instead. The other thing is, one thing that hold on, Mr. Allen, one position that no one can argue with is number one. It doesn't matter whether we're 30 or we're 60, but if we're number one, no matter how bad or how good the metrics may be, can't argue with it. You're at least achieving at a high level.
If the grade is based on who plays hopscotch the best, I don't care about being number one.
Well, right now, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because right now we have a system, this district, where admins, to a very large degree, are considered highly effective, right? But a huge portion of our teachers are not highly effective. So how can that even be, right? To me, that's right there, that's a dull tool. So if we have all of our administrators are highly effective, right, but none of our teachers are, then how can the administrators be highly effective, right? In order to be a highly effective administrator, you would have to create a team of highly effective teachers, right? And it's just a matter of top down. And I'm gonna finish with this. In the 173rd, so you being in the Army, okay, I had the greatest leadership I have ever witnessed, right? Greatest leadership, bar none. It's the most highly decorated unit in the War on Terror. I went to the 82nd, famous unit, right? The leadership was not as great. And you know what the difference is? At the 82nd, it's a lot of parade animals. And it's a lot about officers, which I know that you were an officer. In the 173rd, it was about NCOs. okay? Teachers are our NCOs. And when you support the teachers, everybody looks good all the time. The students below them and the administrators above them. When you have a grade where you're saying the officers are phenomenal, we have the best officers in the Army, but your soldiers and your NCOs are not doing well, that's a problem of leadership, all right? That's a problem that you can't get away from. You can't explain it away no matter what your metrics are. So what I would like to see, right, is for our teachers to be highly effective. NTC's not doing it, right? Whatever grading system we're using is not providing our teachers with sufficient, highly effective ratings. So if we got all of our teachers to where they're highly effective, everyone else should be highly effective. But when only the top is highly effective and everyone else is not, then there's no way you can be above a 53 or a 60. You're always going to be there because your focus is incorrect. That when you focus on the appropriate personnel at the appropriate time, then everyone succeeds. And that's the point here. That's the moral of the story. Okay? We're missing in this district a lot of ingredients that don't allow our students to excel to a high degree everywhere, and we don't allow our teachers to excel at a high degree everywhere, right? So, I mean, to me, that's a problem. Those are the two bodies that need to be excelling. I don't care what Dr. Pace's evaluation looks like. I care what your evaluation looked like when you were a teacher. I care about what your report card looks like as a student. And then nobody will pay attention over there. Nobody will pay attention to any other administrators. And I have nothing against administrators. They're the CEOs. If they're a bad administrator, you're gonna have a bad school, right? We need great administrators just as much as anyone else. But the fact is, our focus is purely on the top. It's why we extend contracts at the very top while she's fighting for hers. That's a symptom. That's a symptom, and it's a symptom that you can't get away from until that whole culture disappears and we start worrying about these people, worrying about what their well-being is, worrying about this student who had feces in his school bus, worrying about getting drivers that take our kids to school, worrying about whether one person says that they have an excused absence and the other person saying my absence is not excused. All those things need to be dealt with, and they need to be consistent. And every parent that comes in here has a different story. Little Johnny did this, little Johnny did that, and they're never the same story. Those are problems, those are symptomatic problems. Those are systemic problems. And it's affecting all of our students and it's affecting our community. And so I get fired up.
Okay, I have more
I'm not disagreeing with a lot of what you said, but I sat there and took it.
I appreciate that very much.
We need to have.
I have a more specific question for you, Mr. Allen, and this comes from appreciating the role of a teacher, kind of like how Mr. Bass went to a couple of classrooms. One thing I've noticed when I've done my classroom visits is that a lot of teachers feel that they're inundated. You know, as far as in my planning period, I'm using it to substitute teacher, yada, yada, so they're being overtaxed. How many veteran teachers really have time to be a mentor to other students when they have to manage their own teacher loads? I mean, so I'm looking at it from that perspective. I mean, can you let me know about, would a veteran teacher, do you think they'll be signing up like crazy to become mentors when they have their own workload?
I think that would be a great question to ask veteran teachers,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we do that in a survey or something like that. I mean, I know you guys can do your own surveys. You know what I'm trying to say? Because it's easy to sit here and say, hey, this is what I want you to do. But I just really want to respect the teacher first. Before I give them like a mandate, hey, mentor students or mentor other teachers, do they even want to do that? And do they have the time and the space to
I'm sure you'd find some that would volunteer. There are people that, and I probably shouldn't say this, there are teachers that they love what they do and they're good at it, and they want others to be good at it, so they gladly mentor people.
Right. I'm sure that's happening every single day.
Yes, it is.
By hundreds.
But to his point, it is hard. Teachers have so much, and not just teachers, the ESPs too, they have so much on their plate that, how does that go? Fatigue makes cowards of us all, at the end of the day, my tank is empty or their tank might be empty and they're not up for it.
Because that's the basis of why we have third-party consultants come into play too. It's not like we don't have the in-house people that have the ability to do it. It's just sometimes they physically can't. You know what I mean? They have enough on their plate, and sometimes you have third-party consultants come in here and augment that training. But now if you wanna tell me, I mean, that's what I said, you're the union president, you know your members better, you know, maybe they do wanna do that, and we can transition to more like that. But that's just something that I wanted, before I sit there as a board, say, okay, let's definitely go that direction, let's have every veteran teacher over 30 years mentor our students. They may not be willing to do that. I mean, maybe if you have like an internal survey and find out how many actually have the
That's
time
the
and space.
conversation.
Give them the right of first refusal.
You know?
Give them the right of first refusal, allow them to choose, allow them to lead, they'll lead.
Well, we're getting a little off track here, we got a bunch of stuff on the agenda left.
I mean, I know our substitute teacher that applied 2 months ago, and she still hasn't got called and hired. And then I know another teacher that applied back in June for her.
Just a minute, we're not gonna have discussion from the audience yet.
I mean, there's help.
Mr. Krabbenbacher, do you have any comments? Yes. We're at board, with your indulgence, I'm gonna move the end of the agenda around here a little bit. And we have Abigail Quinn with us. And I believe she's probably had enough of us. But she's got some stuff to do, so we're gonna, if y'all are okay, we'll move her next.
Absolutely.
And Abigail, this is kind of your minute, tell us a little bit about yourself, ask us any questions about what you've seen here, or if, whatever you want. I know you should be here 2 more times, this is your first?
Yes.
She wants to come back.
If she wants to come back. If you'd like to come back, you have 2 more opportunities. So, the third one would be a little heavier on you, but then this one is kind of up to you, any comments you want to make, or whatever you'd like to say.
So I just want to say that I'm a student at Professional and Technical High School. It's actually right down the road. I'm also in OTEC and Valencia dual enrollment. And with the concerns today, it was very insightful on the county because a lot of it, I come from a very small school, so we don't hear like a lot of the outside commotion. It's very like close knit. And I understand the concerns with transportation, just because even though I have a small school, the buses we do have to share with other schools, and I understand it gets really crowded. And I'm really hoping that the district can do something about that, because I also feel those concerns. And then also, I'm trying to go through my head with all the topics.
You're good.
A very long meeting. And then there are also some other concerns that were brought up that I didn't really know about, like with the food. And I think that that's really important, because I know even though it's overlooked and we don't see it a lot, especially in schools, some students don't have a lot of access to food, or they're struggling, or their parents are struggling to put food on the table. And especially like trying with the problems with transportation, I just hope that something can be done about it, so that students can focus on their education and work to succeed, and the parents don't have to worry about that.
Very insightful. Thank you very much for being here. We're sorry it's so late.
It's all right.
And if you want to sneak out, it's okay with us. I know you've got stuff to do. Did Miss Baker get hot and leave? Because after she said how cold it was, I'm burning up. I don't know. Did Mr. Shatir turn the air off on her?
Should I make sure that she gets to her car?
This brings us to unfinished business, the resolution that Mr. Arguello brought up last week, board.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, on this one, I had spoken to Frank about it earlier, that because somebody had sent out an email string, and we're not allowed to respond to it for sunshine violation purposes to other board members. But when Dr. Pace showed the school board policy on public speaking, I know that we have our own policy to let it go, but it is a little vague. And it says like 15 minutes, 3 minutes, and stuff like that. So, I mean, beyond accepting a non-binding resolution, I actually want to try to revamp or modernize the actual school board policy itself to make it a little bit more clear.
The resolution,
Yes.
quite frankly,
So
doesn't dictate anything we do.
Exactly. So my thing is actually codifying the policy to be a little bit more clear. So that is something that I think Mr. Boyd is willing to do. I spoke with Dr. Pace about it, even though she's not here now. But I'm gonna revise that just so it's a little clear, because it's a little bit, when you read it, to Mr. Arguello's point, it's not really clear. And I do want to make it clear, and to me, a non-binding resolution doesn't do it. I'd rather modify the school board policy itself to make it clear that's long-lasting beyond the school board.
And I'm okay to live there, because I think it is a little vague, but I can tell you, said it last time, we've not cut anybody off short. I mean, we give 3 minutes, we've not said 15 minutes total, 30 minutes in total, we've not done that.
I just think that's old, obsolete language.
I'm okay with that. We have an item on the,
Would that be something, sorry, I spoke out of turn.
that's all right. Go ahead, Mr. Arguello.
Go ahead, Ms. Castillo, go ahead.
Thank you. If we're looking at the policy and just changing it or revamping it to reflect more of whatever we decide here, is that something that should or can be added to the next, to December? Is it December 16th? Is that when we're actually voting on the group, or is that something that needs to be added to another policy?
Rulemaking cycle.
A rulemaking
Mr.
cycle,
Boyd,
yes.
you want to talk to the rulemaking cycle?
Yes, ma'am, you could. The way that I advertise the rulemaking is broad. It covers all rules, student progression, and code of conduct. The question is the matter of time versus for staff and Mr. Melendez and any member of the board that wants input into that. So I just wanted to bring that. Yes, we can do that. I can make that happen with your help if there's enough time and at the direction of the superintendent.
John, I think we could get them by the 16th, a draft.
Yes, sir.
You and I know what
Remind me,
and then you can put it on the December meeting to vote for it, get all your
Okay.
input.
so November 16th, but in December is when we're actually voting for all of the rules in this cycle, so it would still theoretically make it. Okay, I understand, thank you.
Mr. Arguello?
Yeah, so then shall we discuss what that language is? Because here's the thing. For one, I don't think that they're mutually exclusive, right? The resolution is not for us. It's not for the district. It's for the community, right? What we're doing, just like right now, what did we do? We passed a resolution that was in support of the Holocaust Week, right? Why wouldn't we support a resolution that is in favor, in the spirit of parents in the community coming and speaking here? And we can saying that, oh, well, we've never prevented anyone from speaking and so on. That's true, we have not. But that's not to say that we wouldn't next week, or the week after, or the week after that, right? So putting it in the rules, great idea. I am completely and totally in support of it. I think that's a fantastic idea. However, when we have, and the timing is of essence here, because when we have, I think that somebody passed out this memorandum, which is what this was all in response to, right? This NSBA thing, which they apologized for, right? And then the FSBA submitted a letter saying,
They're all related, I feel like we
That
just
was
need to
on,
talk
that's
about
on the
it.
other business list, but,
so,
I give up.
Sorry, I apologize.
so in the end, I'm not sure what it is. These are not diametrically opposed. In fact, they're in unison with one another. Passing a resolution and then stating that we're going to create a policy that guarantees our community an opportunity to come and speak, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't see where the argument is. Saying, if it's just because of me, then that's fine. So we're not gonna pass it because this is Arguello put forth the resolution, so we're not gonna pass it. That's fine, doesn't bother me whatsoever, okay? If we're gonna do the policy, that's great. But it is very silly because we had a bus safety week, right? Does that mean that we have a policy on bus safety? Yeah, right? But did we not do a resolution because of it? No, we didn't avoid doing a resolution. Again, this is not for the board, it's for the community. It's for the community to feel and for us to affirm our acknowledgement that they can come here and speak. That's all it is. And like I said, we can say one thing, but then we can do something else next week, which I think that resolves. The county did it, right? The county had perfect time. The county had the time. They gave you 3 minutes just like we do. And what did they do? Under the darkness of COVID, like the other person said, they basically stole that opportunity away from the community. So what's the difference? It's the same thing here. Go ahead, Frank.
Mr. Chair, can I make a motion to approve the resolution? I'm okay with it, and I think we should just vote on it and then also talk about the policies during our next meeting.
Second motion.
Thank you.
Have a motion by Ms., where am I at here? Motion by Ms. Castillo, second by Mr. Melendez, I think. To approve the resolution on public speaking at board meetings. Board, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries 5-0. Brings us to new business. If we could, I'm gonna go a little bit out of order because we started bleeding into the one that I wanted to talk about, and that is it's actually the letter that you had up. I'll tell you what I know, and my facts may be off slightly, but.
Mr. Chair, I can speak on that as well, Mr. Chair.
Okay, the Florida School Board Association is basically gonna ask their board of directors at an upcoming meeting, which is soon, I don't know when it is, you probably know, Terry. Basically, say we don't wanna be a part of this NSBA thing. I will tell you, I am tired of the extreme rhetoric on both sides and these absolutes and calling people domestic terrorists to come and speak at a school board meeting. I can't accept that at all. I may agree with some people, disagree with some people. So far, I've not seen a domestic terrorist, I don't believe in here, or whatever the wording is. And an association starting to want to get people to investigate law enforcement. So my recommendation, my opinion is when this vote comes up, I would like, my opinion as a board, it's up to the board, would be to say we support the FSBA in getting away, getting away from the NSBA.
I think
Can I
that,
give some context, please?
Yeah, go ahead, Terry. Terry knows.
Wait,
Terry.
I'm sorry, did you need?
No,
to-
let Terry give some context, because she's on the,
Okay.
she probably knows more than.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair, for bringing this up. So, the letter to the NSBA that basically asked them to recant their original letter to, I guess, the president telling, in so many words, calling people who speak in public meetings domestic terrorists and whatnot. The letter that we sent was sent on October 11th. I was in the room when it was written, and it took a long time to write. And so obviously I am in full support of the letter that we sent to the NSBA. After that was sent, we do know that the NSBA recanted their original statement. And as of right now, where we are with the decision for Florida School Board Association is that on November 30th, which is the first day of our School Board Association general meeting, which I think, are we all going to that? Okay, so we will all be there when this vote is taken into effect, and we would be able to vote as to whether or not we want to stay as Florida School Board Association, not as individuals, in the NSBA. So that is where things are right now. This is the information that I have, and clearly we will all be able to participate in that discourse when we go to the Florida School Board Association meeting.
Think everybody votes? I think you're just the board, it's a board vote, which would be.
No, you're right, it is just the board of directors, which I'm a part of, yes.
The other thing that I just checked, because I thought this was true, you do remember the Florida School Board Association.
Yes.
The Florida School Board Association is the member of the NSBA. We are not like an individual member of NSBA.
Correct.
Because I was looking at if we are.
And if I can make one additional clarification point, as of right now, the Florida School Board Association has not paid their dues on purpose in protest of what is going on in the national conversation. So technically, if we don't pay our dues, and I believe that it's in December, that would just basically separate us from the National School Board Association. I do think, and I don't want to speak too much on this because we have not had a meeting where I have participated in this conversation, but we are looking to join different national boards so that we don't lose that connection to the national conversation with regards to education. So that's what I know.
Mr. Roy, do you turn your button off?
well, yeah, I was gonna comment on, sorry. So I was just gonna comment on the fact that I was gonna ask the question that we weren't paying dues, because I thought that was the case. But I'm grateful for the change of stance and the change of views here, because to me this was pretty important. It doesn't matter whether you agree with me, or you disagree with me. The fact is that everyone should be able to come up here and speak. So I'm glad that the NSBA really felt the pressure to recant their story. I'm glad the FSBA took the action that it did. Kudos to them. And I look forward to working on a policy that guarantees our citizens the ability to speak.
All right, I think we beat that one good. Another item was parent drop-off Michigan Avenue. Is that my note?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Chairman. Because I had a couple parents discuss this with me that, because technically the drop-offs are at different times, but using the same space. And not everybody can respect each other when they go in and out. And then I happened to, there's supposed to be like a feature teacher thing, and it wasn't canceled on my calendar. So I ended up going to the school, and so I was there, I was like, oh, let me talk to the principal anyway. So the principal didn't initiate it, just to let you know, so I was just kind of doing a tour, and I was like, well, wait a second, and the parking lots are kind of half empty in the front. And so they snaked through Michigan Avenue to get to the front. So I was thinking, man, they got the virtual school parking lot. What if they snake through there and maybe we just put up like an awning and benches, and that way they don't have to interact with one another. So I did bring this up with Dr. Pace. She said to talk to Mr. Clinch about, just what are the possibilities. So I just want to study that. And I think Mr. Clinch told me there's like a form the principal has to fill out. I'm not exactly sure what that form is called.
New project request.
Yeah, new project request, an NPR. So I asked the principal to do like an overlay, and so she's gonna do that. So I just wanna give you guys a heads up, because who knows what it's gonna be financially, and maybe we may have to wait to the next, budget cycle. So I'm not asking for like an amendment on the budget, but just wanna let you know that we are considering that, because there are two schools sharing the same, and we do have another parking lot there. So just kind of giving you a heads up on that. So I just didn't want to do a whole lot of work without the board knowing it. So I just want to let you know that's what we're working on.
First, Mr. Arguello had, I think, 4 items. Transportation, maybe short notes.
Yeah. So, transportation issues, I think that we need to start making headway on this issue. Overwhelmingly, I get a ton of calls, a ton of concerned parents regarding transportation issues. If we leave it to the marketplace, it's only gonna get worse. I think that we need to take drastic steps, whatever that takes, and provide the transportation that we're obligated to provide the community. So that's really what it was. I'm not sure exactly. I think that we need to go back, do a workshop, and start some critical thinking and thinking out of the box and come up with some ideas that will resolve our issues. One of the ideas that I had, I reached out to the people who had automated buses in Lake Nona, and I'm gonna have lunch with them and see. It's quite feasible. If we take whatever our transportation budget and we can switch it out to something else, right? Then maybe that's something that we should consider, because paying people under the marketable rate is not working, all right? Providing people a situation that's not an enjoyable ride is not working. So maybe we use the resources that are at the forefront of transportation instead of at the back end of transportation. So.
Randy, how many drivers, currently, how many drivers are we down?
We're down 50 drivers. We have 10 in the class.
50? 50. Well, now Lynx, I know, what is Lynx, does anybody know, what's Lynx starting pay? What are they?
$18.
They told me they raised it.
$18.80, now,
And they have 70 vacancies.
that was gonna be my next question, they have 70 vacancies at Lynx at $18.80?
If you're gonna discuss salaries of employees, I will ask you to please do that in the closed bargaining session.
I wasn't asking about ours, I was just asking the salaries of competitors, so we would know where a benchmark would be. But at $18.80, when you said there was 40? 70?
10%. 70 of 700.
I mean, just the broad numbers, in order to attract these drivers, we'd have to be paying them $25 an hour to fill our seats, to fill these buses.
Sure we would.
So, and it is quite possible that at $25, we would have a manageable system. So if we're not willing to do that, right, and you can just crunch the numbers and say, this is what it's gonna cost, are we gonna do that, yes or no? And if the answer is no, then we need to move to something, it's just allowing the problem to consume the district. And that's what's happening. If we don't resolve it, if we don't deal with it, then it's gonna consume us and it just gets worse. So let's figure it out.
We're not making any headway. I agree with you. Next is, I have ESE question.
ESE question. So I had a parent reach out to me and ask me about the same thing that Mr. Bissonnette, I think, came up and had. And what that parent wanted to know, she had the opposite view of Mr. Bissonnette, but at the same time, she wanted to know what the transition plan was for these students. And there was concern and dialogue about whether or not the district was prepared to create an appropriate transition plan, because there's a lot of districts that are fighting back against the governor regarding the plan, so they were allowing these kids to fail. I want to make sure that that's not the case here in Osceola, that we're providing them with an appropriate transition plan that allows them to succeed. So at some point in time, I'd love a briefing on that, on what our ESE transition plan is, maybe a workshop or some kind of briefing of some sort.
I'd be happy to schedule that with you, Mr. Arguello, if you want to get time into one.
Help me on the next one, I can't remember. Transporting.
It's easy to say. Transparency.
Oh, transparency, yeah. So transparency and communication. So this a great baby for the previous one. So here's the thing. In my district, I've been getting in District 5, District 1, District 3, I've been getting a ton of parents reaching out to me with their issues. The most uncomfortable thing for me as a school board member is finding things out that the district already knew about, that the district hasn't come to me about already to give me a warning. So I posed my concern to the superintendent, and what I'm asking for is some kind of report that tells us all of the issues that are happening on a weekly basis, right? These are all the things that you can expect for parents to come to you, so that I'm prepared to answer to that parent who I'm responsible for, so that I'm not in the dark. Because that's not the first feces issue that parents have come to me about. So if one parent comes to me and they have a feces problem, but I'm getting a different type of information from the other side, I want transparent communication. I would like, and I would imagine that the rest of the board would also. I'm not somebody who I like to have phone conversations, okay? The only people I like to talk to on the phone is my daughters. Everyone else, I prefer not to. So text me first, send me an email, and that's how I prefer to receive my communication, and I would like things written. I also like written records of all the things that I communicate about, especially when it's an official business. So I would like a report on a weekly basis of all the issues that parents have come forth to the district about, so that I know what they are, and I'm not surprised in the supermarket at Publix with somebody telling me that their child has some kind of feces issue. So that was that.
The other one was investigation question.
Okay, so we have a variety of investigations going on in the district right now, okay? So I want to address these investigations. There is an investigation that began at the behest of one of our lobbyists, Mike Warner, where he made a bunch of accusations and so on. That's one. I want it on the public record, I am asking for all the evidence that has been put forth here. I understand that the report, this investigation is not complete. That doesn't matter. If I'm the one that's being investigated, then the district has the responsibility, the duty, the obligation to provide me with whatever evidence they're coming forth. And if this is the only evidence that exists, then okay, fine. Then I should be able to know that. And I'd like to know the process of that. The other thing is, Dr. Pace, is Heroes for Kids allowed on campus or not?
It is allowed on campus based on council's recommendation this week.
So here's the thing, I think.
Wait a second. They're allowed on campus, not unsupervised.
Correct, in
Presence
a
of other
business
adults,
partner capacity.
because our policy for volunteers or business associates does not preclude that now.
I think that this is a relationship that needs to be reviewed. Number one, because I know that there's associations between these two parties. So here's the thing. These are two Florida Commission on Ethics complaints that were submitted to the Commission on Ethics from a board member and from the wife of the owner of that organization, right? No big deal, these are total BS, just like Mr. Horner's accusations. The problem is, I know that they're all associated. So here's what's going on. Whenever you speak out at this school district and you say something that's correct, then immediately you start to get attacked by these BS type of investigations or whatever. So for us to allow this behavior, I think that it's only a matter of time before at some point, somebody's not gonna like what you guys are saying or doing. Somebody's gonna not like what the action that you guys take, should you decide to take an action. And then these are gonna start coming at you. And unlike me, here's the thing, I'm an open book, okay? I know what they're gonna find, right? I acknowledge it all the time about me and what my history is. I don't hide it from anyone. So this is gonna be a problem for everyone else here. And these are just games, these are political games. So I'm looking for resolution on this. And at the same time, I would like to what the rules are on attorneys, because this is big waste of money and time, to figure out exactly how this procedure needs to go. Then there's other investigations that I spoke to you about, Mr. Kruppenbacher, earlier. And then lastly, I brought up an issue to our audit committee. I have this memorandum I sent to the audit committee where I requested for the audit committee to, I unintentionally or I intentionally, but I mistakenly used the word investigation when I should have used the word audit. And that technical difference made a difference. I'm not sure if the school board members have seen this memorandum, but I would like to submit a copy of this memorandum to each of you. And then I would like the school district to take action on this memorandum, which highlights potential areas of concern for the school board and the school district. And should I not get support in looking into these things, then I have to look elsewhere so that they do. But,
can I respond when he's done? Sure.
You wanna pass that down, Mr. Chairman?
Is this for all of us or Frank?
That's for all of you. Sorry, it's just one sheet.
That's okay. I didn't know. Are you, before you go, Frank, are you done?
Yes, I am taking.
Mr. Kruppenbacher.
Take them in order. As it relates to this,
Frank, I don't think I can hear you.
I'm sorry. As it relates to the memorandum to the audit committee, the auditors don't do investigations, they do audits. Following that meeting, I met with Mr. Arguero today and advised him that, spoke with the superintendent, and that I was assigning this to an outside attorney to conduct the investigation, and she would be contacting him. Unless I'm directed otherwise by the board, those are the steps we would take when we receive something like this. And this particular person has previously looked into things within that department, and so she'll be knowing what she's looking for. So thank you for generating this, because we will follow up on it.
Mr. Krumbacher, I'm not totally, sorry, go ahead.
No, and so members of the board, unless you tell us otherwise, it's going to be investigated and reported back to this board as it relates to this particular document.
Okay. You have something else?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm not particularly, I don't think I'm satisfied with that resolution. I think that I think that we need to discuss it further and then weigh different options, and then maybe under legal advisement from you, potentially go somewhere else with it.
Mr. Arguello, know one thing, when we do investigations, I consider it within my authority to ask the auditors to work with us when we need their audit expertise. Right. They do not want to be accountable for quoted investigation, but we use them. I'll get with you.
I'm highly dissatisfied with that answer. I mean, that's basically semantics, you know. They are the internal auditor.
If you understand the rules of audit in the industry.
Right, which I don't, and I acknowledge.
I headed up audit for years in Orange County. It's a different animal.
It's forensic auditing.
Right, and so the reality is, we have a team that will get to the bottom of this. And if you're not satisfied when we're done, then we have to address that, okay? Because I'll dig till I'm sure there's nothing. I can tell you, that's just, as to, I think the other one was, first of all, I'm a former commission member on ethics. I will tell you, I read the complaints. I don't believe they stand muster. Right. As it relates to the investigation being done on the other matter involving Mr. Horner, we do not, investigators, when we're doing investigations, do not release any records. However, when you are ultimately questioned, if you have, which I believe is coming up, you have a right to be told what is it that's been asserted against you and what supports that so you can rebut it. If you're not given that opportunity, then you need to talk with me because somebody's not doing their job right, all right? Number two, it is my position that when you are challenged and have to spend money on an attorney and the allegations relate to your role as a board member, if you are found to have done nothing wrong, you are right to, you are entitled to proper reimbursement for the lawyer.
Is there statute or is there language on that? Because here's my concern, is that if you're a school board member, right, and in your official capacity, then you are attacked or put into a litigation situation, then you shouldn't be paying out of your own pocket as a school board member for that defense.
Therein lies the fundamental problem with government officials, me included always. It basically is you're paying out of your own pocket till it's determined you haven't done anything wrong.
So that's the statute.
That's the way it's interpreted by the AG, that's the way the statutes have read. I wish it was different because I've seen more bogus complaints against elected officials than the other side, but the problem is every once in a while they find somebody who did something wrong and they use that to say, we're not spending any money till we know they didn't do anything.
Well,
so yeah, I'll get with you, and generally if you hire an attorney, I will talk with that lawyer about looking.
Well, here's the thing, I would hope that the board itself takes action against people who are acting on behalf of others or in ways that are just absolutely improper here against the board, because that's a pendulum that swings both ways.
Unfortunately, we've got these laws that say people have the right to file these things, and to the extent a government body takes adverse action against them for filing it, they somehow get another claim for their right being violated, versus I think a claim can be made if it is determined things are not bogus and the district had to pay money, that we go after people like that for reimbursement of the dollars we had to spend. Because otherwise you'll just open the door. I've been there and you get a lot of people that'll say stuff that's just beyond the pale of reason, and you have to spend time. I dealt with that for 5 hours this morning on an OCR complaint that is bizarre, but we're having to answer it.
I just don't think that everyone on the board is gonna wanna deal with an ethics complaint on a weekly basis from a variety of parties. I think it's a bad way to go forward, and I think that the job that we have is one that's serious, but these accusations are not, and they may be waged at me today, but they may be waged at someone else the next day. And I think that that's
when you are
the Pandora's box is being opened here.
When you are found, first of all, ethics works this way. They first determine whether when they read the document, do they even think it amounts to something if it was true, right? I don't think it does, right, but that's me. So they throw it out there. At that point, you really haven't spent any money. It's when they go to the probable cause, and now you gotta spend money to effectively prove what's said is garbage, right? And give the other side of the story.
All right, thank you, Frank.
Right, but I will get with you. My goal is to make sure every one of you are protected in these processes, know that. And I'm sorry, John, you're going through it. We just have to deal with it. So the board knows, I gave very, very specific directions to the investigator that they are to deal with it within the corner of the rule. They're not to go outside the rule, meaning you're not here to fish and go all over the place. If somebody alleges you violated Rule X, you're only dealing with Rule X. So know that. If anybody thinks somebody's gonna be looking at other stuff, no.
Thank you, Frank.
Board, any other questions or comments? Now we stand adjourned.
All that